Yeah, my job a opera mine, so what's happening? Government and all y'all cross the line, so what's happening? My ancestors wouldn't like you cross the line, so what's happening? We original, y'all GMO, y'all lying. I do this for my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, oh yeah, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche. I do this for my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche. I do this for my Nietzsche. Should've left me where I was, cause I ain't never scared. Took that little ice off my neck for this Earl head. My nation, my Nietzsche, someone thorough said. Real Americans, still pure blood, we thoroughbred. I'm like, let my people go and just take me instead. When it's red or blue pill, I'm only choosing red. I'ma always choose my people, you can keep that bread. Our government owe $1 trillion, you can keep that bread. If it's one thing Jim Crow is showing me, I don't want no white folks ruling over me. I don't want no politicians ruling over me. I don't want no po-po ruling over me. Only somebody just like me gon' treat me like me. I'm Iron Cherokee, the Chief and Dr. Gia Lee. I'm still a G like DST. You might not be as G as me. You think you free, but you need remedy to be as free as me. I'm from the hood, I'm still waking up my people. They got us good, they still hating on my people. When it comes to fashion, the whole world wanna be like us. When it comes to music, the whole world wanna be like us. When it comes to dancing, the whole world wanna be like us. Foreigners are doing everything, trying to weaken us. Sports, y'all can't fuck with us. Rhythm, know we killing y'all. Anything involve a ball. Mentally, we figured out the cosmos. After all inventing shit, we smashing y'all. It's time to take through asking y'all rights by blood after all. Vatican and the Smithsonian got all our shit. Artifacts and relics still keeping us away from it. When they say it was a long time ago, that's racist shit. Y'all holy land keep stolen shit. We don't need y'all holding it. Reverse engineering our technology, controlling it. Gave it everything you got, but you can't put no soul in it. I ain't go see the new Matrix cause I'm living it. Everything is not what it seems, but I'm killing it. Can you afford to pay attention who you living with? Now they trying to mandatory vax, but is you getting it? Fall back off my Nietzsche, I'm peeping y'all tactics. This ain't no earth war, this here is galactics. Goddesses and gods warming up like practice. We gon' put arrows on your chest like patches. Mongoloids can't style like us, them fake natives ain't wild like us. They ain't got a soul, destiny as a child like us. Nobody power like us, nobody peace pipe like us. Boxing, y'all can't fight like us. Nobody lost they right like us. Wake them up, I'm in the way. Say too much, I'm in the way. They trying to kill us anyway, so listen what I'm finna say. Everybody, our kids, we raised y'all anyway. What that sentence finna say, everybody ain't here to stay. Is you with us or against us, ain't no in between. I'm a non-ether being, not a human being. Fucking 1492, but all my allies, what it do? Renegade got clipped for days, be careful, I advise you to. Yeah, my tribe of opera mind, so what's happening? Government and all y'all cross the line, so what's happening? My ancestors wouldn't like you cross the line, so what's happening? We original, y'all GMO, y'all lying. I do this for my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, oh yeah, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche. I do this for my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche, my Nietzsche. I do this for my Nietzsche.
Peace, peace, peace. Peace and paradise to all American Aborigines. Supreme Chief Holidays in the building. I got my partner in crime in the building. The CEO's in the building, man. Peace to everybody, man. It's going to be tuning in. I don't know if we're going to get another song in or we're going to get right into this build tonight. I'm going to say shout out to everybody this late night build. It's kind of like a premiere, but Sahab going to be in the building with y'all tonight. Matter of fact, I'm going to get in the chat room, so yeah, man, I don't see nobody in here yet. So I think we're gonna get one more song, man. Get the threads up in here, and then we're gonna get right into this build. This is actually when the Pan Boo Boo community got the plug pulled on them. They got their TV turned out. So you know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody, man. They got their cable turned off for real, for real. Shout out to Professor James Smalls, man, a legend in this thing, man. Hey, man, let's just get it, man. We got the North God, Cheeto Gambins in the building. Mr. Miyagi, let's go. Danielson.
Rose gold dip, money so blue it look like crips. Work so good this shit gon' flip. Sauce so strong this shit gon' drip. Dope so good these hoes gon' bite. All these bitches nigga, all this ice. Everything now God drop be pipe. Flex about what I made these niggas. They kill center, I raise these niggas. Rose showers, I spray these bitches. Hate me, love me, don't make no difference. Backwood rolled up, nigga, I smoke. Trap girl with me everywhere I go. Cocaine flow, my shit so dope. All these D's wrap round my throat. TTG, I'm trained to go. Money over bitches, I don't love these hoes. I FDB, I fuck that bitch. CDC, cut that chick. No control, I don't play no game. Knocked up SD, hold my name. 4.6, I'm out of your range. Nigga Bruce Lee kick like a young Luke Kane, like woo. Yeah, hopping out the Rari. Kick it like karate. Mr. Miyagi. No one can stop me. Danielson. Mr. Miyagi. Kid hopping out the Rari. Kick it like karate. Mr. Miyagi. No one can stop me. Danielson. Corner stove, hustle, yeah, I work that stove. Got it at the pot, yeah, I work that stove. Now God, nigga, boy, I birthed that coast. Still in my style, can't work no more. Uptown, nigga, boy, I made that swag. Mask up on you, couldn't take that bag. Real true hustle, I'ma make that bag. Real street, nigga, I don't play like that. All the way live, baby girl, I'm a real one. Bloody girl, up on you go, OJ Sims. I don't play with these niggas, better check my pen. Mexico flat, better check these trenches. Still like Gucci, all my children. Nigga ain't with it, then you might as well kill him. Nigga ain't gang, I'm feeling. Cut a nigga hand off, bitch, keep stealing. You went in the horseshoe with me. Who taught that dog fooling me? I was in shootout after shootout with them niggas across the street. These niggas all off a beat. I made it all off a D. But till a nigga dead or they bust my head, we don't call off the beef. Kid hopping out the Rari. Kick it like karate. Mr. Miyagi. No one can stop me. Danielson. Mr. Miyagi. Kid hopping out the Rari. Kick it like karate. Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi. Realize freedom ain't free, it ain't legalized. Real eyes, realize real life. Yeah, slavery was a long time ago. How? Same motherfuckers still here right now. Colonized on our land, they ahead of us. Changed our name so much, they scared of us. Children of the sun, y'all don't compare to us. Pale-faced people, this ain't y'all area. Talking about America, pale-faced people, this ain't y'all area. Even up the playing field, bitch, I'm darn. How you a victim, bitch, you a Karen. Cognitive dissonance, you don't need sperm. You got white privilege, so you don't need sperm. Looking at my homeland, man, I can't believe her. Colonized came here, they ain't never leave her. Indians ain't die off cause we here. You ain't gotta lie, just say you won't be here. How you American but not indigenous? 400 years still ain't get rid of us. All Europeans, naturalized citizens, made all the Indians niggas on the census. 1492, we was on the fences. Civil rights movement, we was so defensive. Black Wall Street, whites got so offended. Common law rights gave us amendments. Think I don't speak truth, that's alright. First slave 1619 was all white. 1200 wasn't no continent, all white. Europe named after a black woman, alright. Grafted, it come from us, do your research. Go within, quit listening to the teacher. And the new kid got voice coming out the speaker. Cut our trees down and made us weaker. Really they foreign or the shit gets deeper. Whites don't know where whites come from either. I'm Aborigine, we come from the ether. Ruling over us in our land, that's evil. Being colonized right now, black people. Prisoner of the war, that's why it ain't equal. Wake up everybody, don't be no sheeple. Freedom ain't free, really freedom is illegal. And we can't get mad at this. Whites act like we can't see their advantages. Privilege is real, they working in management. Low down dirty, but they calling us savage. They want you to think they above us. All white people are part-time judges. I ain't no racist, but I ain't no sucker. I ain't no African, but they my brothers. Been lied to, I got built up anger. You built everything, still waiting on the savior. Don't call yourself black, please do me that favor. Black tourmaline will protect you from a hater. Listening to your oppressors is dangerous. Gave us a Bible and stole our nation. Said we couldn't read what we didn't know the language. Kept us on paper because we didn't see the danger. American Indian, keep the religion. Skin copper color look just like a penny. Wanted our land and you called us stingy. Ain't no Democrats there to gotta pay attention. We got ancestors, but the papers is missing. Kings and queens, we just can't remember. Remember who you are, just like Simba. Now they got a vax, we don't want that in us. George Washington is the ninth president, look it up. United States only 10 square blocks, look it up. White people really the minorities, look it up. Courtrooms don't got authorities, look it up. You want me, say stop governing me. Gave me a straw man, it's really not me. Why you don't keep it 100 with me? Why Trayvon Killer still walk around free? Made this song for the truth, don't hate it. History was told in reverse, I've stated. Read still oppressed, somebody gotta say it. I'm taking out of school, that's the reason I made it. History is his story. History is his story. History is his story. History is his story. That ain't my story. History is his story. Probably ain't your story. History is his story. It's his story.
Let's get right into the video. Yeah, let's get right into the Professor Smalls video.
Thousand Cubans in the soil of Africa because the price of freedom is death. I like living in this body, but if you kill my son, I'm gonna kill you. I'm not gonna get on TV and cry and call for Reverend Sharpton. Quietly sit back, bear my baby, and then I'm gonna figure out how to kill you and your wife. And kill you and your children. Every black parent that have lost the child to the bullets of the enemy in uniform who's supposed to be your protector, you should go kill those enemies. That's your duty as a human being. If you can't gain your human being back, having sex does not make you a man, having a job don't make you a man, having a college degree don't make you a man. What makes you a man is your ability to protect your family. And certainly the Africans were here before the Asiatics got here. Anthropology and archaeology proves that.
That's right.
But we're trying to confuse the Asiatic with the African. No, they're two distinctly different groups. The people we call Indians is one group of people who migrated through the Bering Strait 10,000 or so years ago. Then you had Africans who came across in two different directions. One through the East Island chain out of the Pacific, from Australia and those areas, and the main body came from Africa into South America.
We here having a powerful discussion, and we know the internet is buzzing with the native, you see, with the natives and the Aborigines and the Africans, and we don't have a problem saying that we mix with some of the natives. We know that's true, but the problem that we have, Brother Jabari, is that when they say we are only natives, that we are not African, we don't have the African blood. But we're going to deal with that later. Right now, Professor Smalls has some powerful, pertinent information about what's going on in Africa, Ghana in particular. So without any further ado, I bring you to my brother, Professor James Small.
Well, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Peace and blessings, Hotep. I mean, one of the things I want us to do is just pay attention to Africa. Because if you don't pay attention to Africa, your enslavement in America will only be increased. And your bondage will only be expanded, and your shackles will only be tightened. Anytime you dishonor your mother and your father, you've dishonored yourself. And Africa is the mother and father of all living beings, particularly the parent people we call ourselves, the black people. But there's a situation in Congo I'll mention first, which is terrible and sad. The American corporations, the Canadian corporations, the Israeli corporations dominate that country, and thousands of people are dying over there every month. People are killing women and children, hacking them up with machetes, and we don't even see it on the news over here. Just last week, there was a village near Kasai where multiple 30-something women and children was hacked up by other brothers and sisters who have lost their sanity. They're all Christians and Catholics and Muslims. That means you're insane. If you're a black man and you're a Christian, you're insane. If you're a black man and you're Muslim, you're insane. If you're a black man and you're Hebrew, you are insane. It means you are out of your mind and you're in the mind of somebody else. And with that said, we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention to South Africa right now. The brothers and sisters have passed the rule. The rule has actually been on the books for a while to get their land back. And now everybody's praising it, saying, yeah, they're getting their land back. But the caveat is the white folks got to agree to sell the land. So it isn't like they have a law saying, we can tell you we want the land. But the truth is that law says they got to want to sell the land. So just pay attention to that, because the white folks have no right to the land. When you start arguing that you're taking their land, you've lost your rationale. They have no right to the land. They stole the land. They didn't pay nobody for that land. And then there was a law that was in the 1920 in the apartheid state that gave them 90% of the land. So if they can make a law to give them 90%, we can make a law to take the 90% back. So we can stay logical and make sense with what we're doing. But the most important thing I'd like to mention today is what's going on in Ghana. The president of Ghana, and they probably bombed me from the country, and the Parliament of Ghana have completely lost their minds. Who was Nana Akufo-Addo, who appeared to be a very good man. I don't know him personally. I've met him. I know of him. But somehow they've come up with an agreement to put an American military base in the capital of Accra, based by their airport, giving them access to their communication grid, allowing them to use American identity and don't have to get Ghanaian driver's license or anything. The Ghanaian policemen can't stop them, and they can drive their military vehicles in the streets of Ghana. That is total insanity. These are the people that overthrew Kwame Nkrumah, destroyed the nation of Ghana. You know, there was a time Ghana was making their own television, their own refrigerators. They had their own canning factories, their own shoemaking factories. America went in and destroyed all of it when they overthrew Nkrumah. Ghana had a nuclear power plant. Yes, before most of Europe had it. It's still there in Legon by the university. And America went in to overthrow Nkrumah, not because of his ideology, because of the nuclear power plant he had just powered up that the Bulgarians helped him to build. So the Ghanaian people are in the streets right now. There's a massive demonstration going on in Accra, Kumasi, Sunyani, and I think in the Cape Coast area. And so the people have told them, we don't want this, but the parliament has voted for this. But some people are taking them to the Supreme Court because I think there's a law on the books in the government in Ghana that speaks against making this kind of relationship with another foreign military. So let's hope they're able to win this case in court.
So are you saying that the American troops is on the ground
American
in
troops
Ghana?
is on the ground in Ghana. They will be coming.
So
They're
but
already there clandestinely, but now they will be acting openly.
So even if Ghana was to say no and close their doors, wouldn't America just come in and bogart? Because you know Ghana ain't ready for
The
America.
price of freedom is death. Malcolm X is dead. He took 19 bullets for us. Dr. Martin Luther King is dead. He took a bullet that blew up his face for us. Matt Gabbers is dead. He took a bullet to the back of the heart for us. Price of freedom is death. Samori Michel in Mozambique, Frelimo, told us the price of freedom is death. MPLA in Angola told us the price of freedom is death. Fidel Castro, who helped both of those countries get their freedom, sent and buried over 5,000 Cubans in the soil of Africa because the price of freedom is death. Period. If Ghana isn't willing to stand up to America, then just pull on your panties and become the whore that you're going to become and let them turn you back into a colonial pimp again for your people. No, we got to stop it. It's freedom or death. We were told that by Dessalines during the Haitian Revolution. Freedom or death. Everybody's going to die. I'm going to die. Jabari going to die. You're going to die. If we've got to die, let's live first. So that when we die, some of us said, those men lived for freedom. They lived for a better future for their people. They lived for their great-grandchildren and not for themselves. You know?
It almost seems like everything these days, and I've been using it more as a teaching tool. I turn things back to even some of the scenes that we see in this film, Black Panther, and I remember the scene where the antagonist is about to kill one of the sisters as a part of the elite military, and instead of begging for her life, she says "Wakanda forever." It's a beautiful scene. I mean, in some ways, it's mirroring what you're saying. You're saying my life is worth this idea that unifies my people, and that's really the highest thing. That to give your life for your people is a blessing.
To give my life for the cause of life and for the cause of being. When you become a slave, you lose your beingness. You lose your human beingness. When you are under colonialism, you're a slave. And so what value is life except that it's lived freely? Even the very word freedom means liberated mind. So if you have not liberated your mind because you can buy some groceries and get a job, that's not freedom. You know, that's not freedom. Freedom is when I can realize my divinity unobstructed. That's freedom to me. When I can realize my divinity unobstructed, that's freedom. You know. And so
I think we're seeing also that the location of the United States base in Ghana is part of the increasing movements of the United States in Africa. I mean, we were because of the death of those 4 soldiers, we were aware of their actions in Niger.
But they've been in Niger, they're in Chad, they're in Mali, they're in not Burkina Faso. The French is in Burkina Faso. The French have got more troops in Africa than they've got in France. All right. The Americans is in the Congo secretly. The Portuguese still got troops in Angola. Those people have no intentions of allowing us to control our resources unless we intend to control our own resources. Now, I'm not going to be a beggar in nobody's street. How you going to be sitting on all this gold, all this diamond, all this cobalt, all this manganese, all this cocoa, all of this other wealth And your people begging in the streets,
That's
selling
right.
toilet paper side the road that they got from some
That's
Chinese
right.
merchant in a warehouse.
Oh, yeah.
That give it out to them on a daily consignment basis
Mm.
while they roll up to your ports and Tuckerati and bring their big barges and open up their big ship while your barge is floating there with all your raw materials and you don't even know it's left your country.
Mm.
And you scampering on a boat or paying some people to get you to Libya, risking your life as a slave or to death to get to Italy to get a job, but you're gonna make $2 an hour. Yeah, something's wrong with that picture.
Hell yeah.
You know, something's
Now,
wrong.
now, let me ask you this, because there are those in our community, and sometimes I don't always like to talk to them, but we have to speak to people who we can try to rescue from some kinds of thinking. There's some who are saying we're talking about Africa, but we're struggling in Harlem and the Harlems around the United States. Why should we talk about Africa?
Good question.
One is not mutually exclusive. You fight for freedom wherever the need for freedom is. You know, we're not even fighting in America. So what are they talking about? Okay? So don't tell me not to fight in Africa when you're sitting down watching a baseball game while your brother is being killed on the corner in Harlem. And you don't do anything about it. Like I tell any families, I like living in this body, but if you kill my son, I'm gonna kill you. I'm not gonna get on TV and cry and call for Reverend Shopton. I'm gonna quietly sit back, bury my baby, and then I'm gonna figure out how to kill you and your wife and kill you and your children. Every black parent that have lost a child to the bullets of the enemy in uniform who's supposed to be your protector, you should go kill those enemies. That's your duty as a human being. If you can't gain your human being back, having sex does not make you a man. Having a job don't make you a man. Having a college degree don't make you a man. What makes you a man is your ability to
It's going
protect
hard.
your family. And if you can't protect your family, you're going to bring a baby in this world, raise them up to a man, child, or a woman, and then you're going to let somebody come and shoot them down like a dog in the street, not only go into court and get off and laugh in your face, but they pay them back pay. And you just going to get on TV and cry. No, your obligation is to go to your grave to avenge your children. That's your duty as a human being, black man. That's that. Ain't no other way to go. We've given them an opportunity to do just. They haven't done just. Let's take the justice to them. There's no other way to go.
And in terms of the monopoly on African resources, because we know that this is a challenge that we're seeing all over the continent. The African people, for the most part, and I have to say for the most part, because we know that Africans are still enslaved, but African people, for the most part, are no longer in chains.
Right.
But that does
there's-
not mean that our resources, that our birthright, that our connection to the land that we've lived in for millions of years has actually been returned to us. We must take it. So
Right.
what is the role of retaking our resources as diasporan Africans, not just the Africans on the
First, we
continent?
have to retake our minds. If you can't retake your mind, you won't even realize you have resources to retake. Okay, you got to retake your mind. And that's what a lot of this study and a lot of what I appreciate about Sonetta TV has been able to do is to spread the word around the African world that says the information of history, the information of our spiritual system, the information of our culture will allow us to heal what Wade Noble called the European mimetic infection of the African mind. Our mind is infected with European filth in terms of their mislogic, in terms of their false understanding of how to organize reality. So people got to remember this. Excuse me. Your mind is organized, okay, by the information you have ingested. Where did you get that information from? What and how was that information constructed that now have your mind organized? The white man's religion, his philosophies, his theology has organized our minds in such a way that even when our ancestors regurgitate up out of our subconscious, we kill it out of fear. We kill it out of fear. So even the God in you isn't allowed to rise because the European in you have a dominant place at the table.
We've all been there. We've
Yes,
all
sir.
been there. I remember the first time I realized that what I had known about my connection to the universe and had been told by that religious institution that I was connected to was wrong. Some folks on Sunda's platform heard me say this. I dropped the book that led to the light bulb coming on and left the building in the middle of the winter.
That's what you're
And I
supposed
just
to do.
walked with no coat, no hat, just walking in the snow.
Your grandpa
You know.
woke up inside and slapped the piss out of you. That's what happened.
It was that
Negro.
terrifying.
You know?
I just left. You know what I mean?
That's why this Ankh is so important. I like to have a prominent life.
Mm,
I am alive.
mm,
I have been given birth to by the universe,
mm,
and I will give birth to new universes.
mm.
That's what this Ankh is saying.
Mm-hmm.
In some of this conversation, the Ankh is a whole treaty,
That's right.
you know.
When can me and Brother Jabari take you down there to Brother Samaj? I would like to see y'all two just.
They haven't built on the platform together. They at least once. Yeah, at least once I saw.
Yeah, me and Baba Samaj go back almost 50 years.
Yeah,
See, most people don't know
I
that.
had Samaj, Infadiji, and Professor Smalls.
People still love that piece. People still love it.
Yeah.
Every time
Mhm.
I take those tapes, people buy them up.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing is as we come to our subject that we're going to talk about, the indigenous and the natives and so forth, all of that has to do with freeing your African mind. What John Clark was telling us, Shashi McIntyre was telling us, Jeannie Bain was trying to tell us, going back to Sojourner Truth and Ida B. Wells.
Mm.
They were trying to tell us you got to free your mind. When you read David Walker's Appeal, read it. David talking about Kemet and David Walker's Appeal.
Mm-hmm.
They all talking about freeing your mind. Dessalines and Toussaint was talking about freeing your mind. De
Mm.
Fele and Cecilia Fatima in Haiti was talking about freeing your mind.
Mm.
They were able to fight the Haitian Revolution because they unlocked the white man's hole in the minds of the Haitian people.
Mm.
And until we unlock that hole, we don't even know we're supposed to be fighting.
They're still paying for it too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Black folk around the world, Africans around the world, have not celebrated them and thanked them
Right.
for their example to us
On how
and they
to
are
free our mind.
still paying for it.
Yes, because
Mm.
what Haiti taught us is you free your mind when you abandon the God of your enemy
Mm.
and return to that of your ancestry.
Mm.
Only then can you become yourself again.
Mm.
You know, when somebody do something stupid, they always say, well, I did that because I wasn't myself. That's exactly why you did it.
That's right.
Because you ain't yourself.
Mhm.
Let's become yourself again,
Mm.
you know?
Mm. That's powerful. That's powerful. So, Sa, you want to us to circulate around to our concept around the maybe I can even start it this way as we talk about the challenge of today. I have been really affected by individuals in our community, and I'm not putting it past that those are also people that are put there intentionally.
Oh, no, that's-
But people in our community who have been trying to set the ship, which is finally floating, astray.
Mhm.
And so there are a group of people that are doing it. One of the groups of people that we're talking about today is those people who are calling themselves now the Aborigines. And I'm concerned about it because I think that what has begun to happen is they're trying to say, not that we don't have long-term relationships with Native peoples, not that we aren't the fathers and mothers of all humanity so that we're everywhere, but what they're actually saying is you are not an African, you are an Aborigine, which is a term that they've chosen to use.
Which is when babies talk, adults should spank their behinds. It's the first thing when they talk out of turn.
You said, what
You know,
is what?
The term Aborigine mean.
And Malcolm made a joke of it.
Yeah, he was joking, but he said he was talking about people who he was talking about and he was, you know, in a nation they define everything.
That's right.
And so Malcolm was breaking down and said all that means is original.
Mm.
And if you're an Aborigine, you're an African, because that's the only human being that is original.
Mm.
So first of all, they need to get their definition straight. To be original, you got to be the first,
Mm.
okay? And the first is the African.
Mhm.
The one we call the Africans, we probably call ourselves something else before now,
Mhm.
but language determine label. And so the language we speak today has allowed us to apply the label we call African.
Mm.
The whole world have scientifically proven that humanity emanated out of South Central Africa.
Mhm.
And then populated the rest of the world.
But not out of
No.
Mesopotamia? What? No.
No,
What?
Mesopotamia is a baby that comes so much later in time. A baby that comes so much later in time.
Right.
And so if we populated all the rest of the world, all of the islands in the Pacific,
Mm-hmm.
all of Australia, all of India,
Mm-hmm.
all of even Europe was black.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to pretend we didn't populate the Americas?
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to get from West Africa to Brazil than it is to get from West Africa to Australia.
Mm.
You know?
That's right.
So we need to make common sense. Were there Africans in this country before Christopher Columbus? 1492 is what, 600 years ago or 500 years ago? That's nothing in the scale of time.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Mali civilization is saying they sent hundreds of ships over here
Mm.
that never came back.
Mm.
We know there was an incident about 2 months ago on the news. 6 white men in a damn rowboat leaving the Gran Canary Islands over the coast of Africa, rowed their way to America in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We know there have been other experiments where people have used even the papyrus boat
Right.
and came from Africa to America. So please, we used to come over here on vacation.
I want to even put add some information into some of what he said, because
Mhm.
for those of you who have not been studying as long as others, you might hear what he said and not know how to do some more research on what he
Right.
said.
Thank you.
When he talked about the Mali Empire, you have to look at the story of Abu Bakr,
Yes.
and you look at how he ascends to the throne. Please, for those of you who want to know more about how Africans might have made successful journeys to the United States, look at how he ascends to the throne. We have several rulers. His predecessor says he's on the throne, and he says, "I don't want to be on the throne anymore. I want to explore the world."
Mm-hmm.
And so he says he's going off, and he leaves. This is in our record,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
There are those that believe that he was attempting to come here. And so it is, I often say that if people are anywhere, it's because Africans went there.
Right. And it is in African oral history,
Mm-hmm.
the coming back and forth.
That's right.
I remember the first time I went to Tokoradi, which is in the western region of Ghana, and I walked into the Atlantic Hotel, a hotel that was built by Kwame Nkrumah,
Mm.
and there was a mural on the wall of the lobby of the hotel, 20 feet by 20 feet,
Mm.
of Africans landing on the shores of America, pre-Columbus, trading with the Asiatics.
Where is this that you saw?
In
that?
Tokoradi. This
Woo.
was in 1980 when I went to that hotel in Ghana.
Mm.
So to the African, that's a normal.
Yes.
norm. They think that is normal. When Christopher Columbus came here, he wrote about the black folks he met here.
Yes, he takes his second voyage. He's
Mhm.
dropping a lot of stuff, y'all. I'm trying to be the attendant here and slip some stuff in so you can do your further research. He
Mhm.
takes it on his first voyage. The native people here tell him that they saw the black men with spears tipped with gold.
Mhm.
And so he says he's taking his second voyage so that he can find them.
Yeah.
He was familiar with the African. So
Right. And his brother, Christopher Columbus' brother,
Mhm.
said that the guides that he had in South America were Ethiopians.
Mm.
Verrazano, when he came into New York, said he met these Ethiopians because
Mhm.
Ethiopian was the operative European word for black or African.
That's
in those
right.
days.
The burnt face.
Yes.
Ethiopia.
And so, but notwithstanding that, anthropology and archaeology on the Americas, just go do your research. The people you call in the Native American, the Indian, the Asiatic, has only
Mhm.
been here a little bit more than 10,000 years.
Mhm.
They warred against us who had come here 200,000 years before them.
Mm.
Okay. And so those of us who came, if you go to, I forgot my little brother's name. He wrote this book on Mexico. He just called me last week. He just got out of college, but you can get to sign that. I'm gonna give you his name. And he was in the Nation of Islam, and he was on a visit in Belize. And he met this brother that told him, "You ought to come on down to southern Mexico and meet some of the black folks there." He said, "There are black folks down there." So he went down to southern Mexico and he wrote a little pamphlet on it. Then he expanded the book a few years later
Mhm.
on the blacks in Mexico. And the elders there told him there's 2 blacks here. The ones who came on the boat, meaning those who came during slavery, and the ones who came before the boat.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're talking about the Almacs,
Mhm.
the Oh goodness! But those who we see built all the pyramids,
Mhm.
all, if you look on the paintings, they're black. They
Mhm.
don't try to hide it. White
Mhm.
folks have been in there trying to whitewash a bunch of stuff,
Mhm.
but the most significant ones of the priests wearing the leopard skin, just like they did in Kemet, on the design of the pyramids, on the even the opening of the mouth tool that's used in the judgment scenes in Kemet. You see it
in the, amongst the Olmecs.
Yes.
He's making me
So-
feel like I need
so-
to go get some artifacts from around the house to show the families.
Yes. So we know that Africans populated the world. We were in New Guinea.
Mhm.
We were in Australia.
Mhm.
We were in Cambodia.
Mhm.
We were in Thailand. We were in China. We were the Ainu people of Japan. We were in India. I'm married to a black woman from India, okay, whose family is from southern India, and their people still live there. And these are the black peoples. We know that we populated all of the islands of the Indian Ocean. And so we populated as well Central and South America. Black people went everywhere. Our genesis is Africa. So this foolishness I'm seeing on the internet with people who haven't done any research, have not presented any facts, talking about we are not Africans. We're Aborigines. All Aborigines mean is the original population in that particular land. We're Aborigines of Europe.
Well, they're saying that we are also Cherokee. They fathers Cherokee, and and then most of the time,
Cherokee was one of the biggest enemy. I'm part Cherokee.
Uh-oh, say that again.
I did 5 years ago. We did our family reunion on the Cherokee Reservation in the mountains of North Carolina. That's my family. Much of the Cherokee Nation, there's only a small portion of the Cherokee Nation that even had any kind of positive relationship with black folks. Most of them work with the white folks against black folks. Cherokee has been one of the most European-focused Native American nations in this hemisphere, and anybody can have that. I have people who are from the so-called Cherokee Nation. Much of what is called the Cherokee Nation today is a compilation of about 50 other nations from the southern part of the United States who the white man dumped together and called Cherokee. But there was a Cherokee Nation. And most of, if you study history of the Americas, you'll find that the Cherokee Nation allied more often with the white man than with the black man. The people who allied with us was the Creek, the Red Tail Creek, because a large part of the Creek Nation, which made up Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, that nation, a large part of them sided with the white men and fought the wars of genocide against us. But the Red Tail Creek sided with us and lived with us and amalgamated with us to become with us the Seminole Nation. And so we need to study history and not play with history so we can get an understanding of what went on here. Go back and read LaRon Bennett's book, The Shaping of Black America. He has a chapter in there called The Red and the Black. And he deals with this to some extent. Even read our brother David Hotep's new research.
Yes.
Read Ivan Van Sertima's research, and then look at the bibliographies they use in order to expand your teaching. This silly thing of trying to deny Africa is going right back to the same old Judeo-Christian Islamic self-hatred that we try to justify. And now we're going to try to play race as a way of justifying our self-hatred.
So let's do this, because I want to. Sometimes when people hear the first part of our conversation, they're not able to distinguish it from the second part of the conversation.
Right.
So I want us to be able to have some complexity and sophistication in the way we tell it, so the family can understand.
Yes,
they
sir.
hear us say that Africans made journeys. They hear us say that Africans populated the world. They even hear us say that Africans who were brought here against their will escaped and spent time with native peoples, lived in their land.
No, let's not call the Asiatic natives people. Let's stop that. That's a mistake we make, and that's part of the conflict. The Asiatics are immigrants that came in, a warring immigrant that came in 10,000 or so years ago and warred upon the African immigrants that had preceded them here.
See,
What makes them native?
The challenge that I'm trying to give to folks who haven't studied this as in depthly is I want them to understand time periods,
Okay.
and then understand how two brothers who are sitting on the couch, an elder and a student, could sit here and say that Africans were here before Columbus, and then still say when you try to say that you're not an African, there's a problem. Because I think that people aren't always able to understand that we're talking about something a little bit more complex.
Right.
So that even in the
It's
chat
the
room,
biscuits being, if the cat have kittens in an oven, it doesn't become biscuit. Malcolm
That's one of my
Malcolm
favorite
made stuff
Malcolm X quotes.
simple.
Yes, he did.
You
Yes,
know?
he did. Yes, he did.
So,
But
you know.
but to give this some teeth, I want to show you some stuff really quickly. This is one of the brothers, and you know what? A brother in the chat room, Sonetta, a brother that I admire, that I have respect for, got a little upset with me at one point. We resolved it, but he said that I'm going after a particular brother on YouTube, and I first said, no, I'm not. But you know what? I'm going to say I am. Because I think
You're
that
not
what
going
he's
after him,
doing,
you're setting the facts straight.
what he's doing is dangerous. It's not personal. I don't know him.
Oh, you talking about?
But I'm talking about Dane Calloway. It's not personal. I don't know him.
Right.
But I think that what he is promoting to our people
Smalls ain't
is
say that.
dangerous. So here goes one of the
He isn't
images
significant to anything.
of his. Oh, he's significant because, you know, look, he has millions of views. Look at what he's saying here. I'm going to show this to you as well, Sonetta. This is just the tag for his video, right? And this is about the DREAM Act and the DACA Act. And I don't want you to focus as much on the caption, but more focus on the imagery that he uses. So what he attempts to do is he shows an image of someone who is purported to be a Native American. I'm going to use that term intentionally here,
But,
right?
But you got to clean it up because that traps you at the end of
It does. It does. It does.
the
It does.
status.
But I want to be able to distinguish it so the family understands who I'm talking about, and then we'll change and talk about who
call
really
him, call him
talking about.
Indian then. And
Okay, so let's say Indian. The reason why I don't say Indian is the challenge of Colombia.
I don't care
Columbus,
about if we're going to be concerned about that challenge, then we'd be concerned about them taking away identity. So call
okay, so let's say Indians for the sake of this conversation.
Asiatic
So
Indian.
the one on the left is supposed to be purportedly a drawing of a man who is an Indian.
Mhm.
And the one on the right is an image of a modern African in the Americas.
Mhm.
And so what he attempts to do,
He's the sports analysis. That's Shannon.
so I don't know. I didn't recognize him.
Oh, wow.
But my point is this, though. What he's trying to do is he's trying to say, look at how similar they look. Clearly, this man is not an African. This man is an Indian. And so what Dane Calloway has said, and I
So
want to be
I would
clear
do the
about this.
reverse.
Mhm.
This man is not an Indian. He's an African.
Right.
No, you didn't hear me.
I did hear what
I'm
you
talking
said.
about the one on the. I'm talking the one we call an Indian. He ain't an Indian. He's an African
But this is
with some feather in his head.
But I want to say it in a certain way because I'm addressing particularly someone who has a lot of views,
Mhm.
and I think that people get confused. People who are just trying to understand the things that have been taken from them.
I
They're
know.
trying to understand
But-
something.
I'm gonna let you finish that. Then I'm gonna tell you why I was interrupted.
I hear what you're saying. I really do understand what you're
Finish it.
saying.
It's important.
But so understand what. Here's another image. Let me just show you this one as well, so you can get a sense. I'm not. And this was only about 3 months old and has 428,000 views.
Mhm.
So this is another one where he takes an image of someone's purportedly to be an Indian
Mhm.
and then someone who we believe is African, and he puts them together. So he doesn't explain who they are at all. And I'm not saying he needs to, but what he's trying to do is he's trying to give you a visual message. And then he clearly says, and this is for those of you who may hear this and not understand what I'm really responding to, he clearly says, you are not an African, you are an Aboriginal person.
And tell him, see, what we got to do is not let you with us.
Mm.
That's a child.
Now, keep in mind, Dan Calloway never said Aboriginal in his life until I asked him that a couple months ago. Stop the bullshit.
There's a Chinese Aboriginal. There's an Indian Aboriginal. There's an Afghan Aboriginal.
Mm.
There's an Australian Aboriginal. So what is he talking about?
Mm.
He's trying to take a word he thinks people are not familiar with, then create it into a word that would justify and rationalize his self-hatred and his anti-African being, because he isn't willing to give up his Christian, Judeo-Christian essence.
Mm.
I'm gonna call it what it is. We know what it
Mm.
is. People scared to let go of that whiteness.
Mhm.
Because if you let go, so you're gonna try to say, well, I'm gonna keep the whiteness, but I'm gonna paint it black and put it over here.
Right.
No, I don't want to let nobody play that game,
Mhm.
because there's over 1 billion of us on this earth who we can call African, probably more.
Mhm.
I'm talking when you go to the Philippines, they're not Filipinos, the light-skinned ones, because you got just as many black ones in the Philippines
Mm.
too. black and nappy-headed.
Mm.
The Aborigines,
Mhm.
all Aborigines mean is that you're the original stock in that location before
Mhm.
any other ethnic or racial stock got there.
Mhm.
And certainly the Africans were here before the Asiatics got here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Anthropology and archaeology proves that.
That's
But
right.
we're trying to confuse the Asiatic with the African. No, they're
Mm.
two distinctly different groups. The people we call Indians is one group of people who
Mhm.
migrated to the Bering Strait 10,000 or so years ago. Then you had Africans who came across in two different directions. One through the East Island chain out of the Pacific from Australia and those areas, and the main body came from Africa into South America.
Mm.
Okay. That's where you'll find historical facts, anthropological facts, archaeological facts. You're not going to find any facts for what somebody do playing with some pictures using computers
Mhm.
because they're too afraid or because their ignorance of Africa or some Africans have offended them.
Mhm.
And so now they've got to rationalize and justify in their mind and then use technology to try to rationalize and justify this in the mind of those who are less informed in our community.
Mhm.
And what we've got to do is be willing to do our own research
That's right.
so we can see the silliness of some people's behavior.
Mhm.
And even if their intent was good, but whenever someone can get on the computer with all of the information available and do something like that, then I got to question intent.
Yes.
All content have an intent behind it. Let me
Mm.
say that again. All content have an intent.
Mm.
And so when you are examining somebody's content, then you need to ask the question about their intent.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
and Africa, first of all, the continent, if you know anything about continental drift, the place we call Africa was smack dab up against America. Guinea used to be up against Virginia.
Mm.
Okay. They found shell fish fossils in the mountain of Virginia that is only found off of the coast of Guinea.
Mm.
This is 40 years ago they found this research. So when the continent drifted apart, everybody didn't jump over to the African side of it.
Mm.
And many of us have traveled here. Africans have proven that they've been coming back and forth for hundreds of years before Christopher Columbus.
Right.
Matter of fact, the young man who was Christopher Columbus' navigator comes from Elmina, where the first slave fort was built.
Mhm.
And Christopher Columbus' father-in-law was the one that brought him back to Portugal.
Mm.
And he became the navigator using knowledge from their ancestry on how to hit the Gulf Stream, the stream. See, you don't have to
The
even
trade
sail
winds.
here.
Yeah.
You don't even need the winds.
Mhm.
The water current. You got to get in the right stream.
Mm.
I was in the U.S. Navy,
Mm.
and I sailed the Atlantic.
Mm.
And you get your, I forgot what they call it when you cross the equator,
Mm.
and you get a certain certificate. And that's the route we followed, the same route. Out of the Gran Canary Islands, I was stationed in Las Palmas, Gran Canaries, out of the Gran Canary Islands, and come down the coast of Africa, and it drops you right in the Caribbean and the Bahamas.
Mm.
You don't even have to do nothing.
Mhm.
Africans knew that. All they had to do is stay steady, have enough food for
Mhm.
2 or 3 weeks,
Mhm.
and they can make it.
Mm.
But we had bigger ships than the whites, I said, used the rowboat, the big rowboat, only a month ago or so to make that same trip in
Mm.
3 weeks.
Mm.
And didn't lose a man.
Mm. Now, I think that part of the reason why, part of the motivation, and this is maybe intentional and unintentional, to articulate that we are not the African, is because we have been told the story of our enslavement the wrong way. And so there are people who are still really dealing with the painful legacy of our enslavement. And we've been told that we were a conquered people. And basically, the way that story goes is that white people finally came into their good moral right and let us go.
But who were more conquered than those who were here when the white man got here?
Mm.
Well, let's look at it now. He didn't build no United States in Africa. There's no Washington, D.C. on the continent of Africa.
Mm.
There's no London on the continent of Africa. It's here in America. You talking about who was conquered? Oh, you want to be this person who was here before the black man came on the ship? Then be that person. If you read LaRon Bennett, LaRon was the first one I saw dealing with this in the 1970s in Shaping a Black America in the chapter The Black and the Red, where the white folk says, Some of these folks is blacker than the ones we bringing in on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Let's raid their villages and put them all enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the so-called Native American, the Asiatic white person, stop trying to make that person the black person you want to be. And if you want to be with them, go and ask permission to go on the reservation. You find they don't want no black people on their reservation.
Mm.
They've been trying to get the blacks off of the reservation in Oklahoma for years. It's been in courts for years, you know? So what we need to do is deal with history and facts.
Mm.
There were black folks here before the enslavement period. There were black folks here before the Native American came. There were black folks who came by the millions from Africa to this hemisphere, and we amalgamated with the black folks who was already here.
Now,
We were the same folks.
Now, one of the things I want to be able to do for the family so that we're able to also put some pins in this conversation so you can follow really well is also understand numbers.
Mhm.
Because in saying that, and as one of the claims that we see on the internet, that 98% of us are not Africans, that's exactly one of the claims that this brother makes. What he's doing is he's not also looking at the
But he
numbers.
puts up no proof.
No.
None of it. So
No.
the Ku
No.
Klux Klan says things about us all the time. They don't put up
Mm.
any proof. They call us monkeys. Are we monkeys? Could
Mhm.
somebody say we're monkeys?
The reality is that the overwhelming majority of us did come in enslavement ships.
Mhm.
We're talking about 10 to 12 million is the accepted estimate, but I'm gonna tell you that I believe that number is much larger.
It's
one,
much larger.
and we also have to acknowledge. I'm gonna give you the mic. It was sound that is burning to say something. So I want to say something. And the other thing is, we also are not talking about those people who did not make that journey, who did not survive. So we're talking about really tens of million, maybe even as many as 100 million people that are affected.
People with every white nation in Europe with the most sophisticated military technology, every Turkish and Arab nation in the Middle East. See, this was not just some white people. This was a war that was going on for 1,500 years before Christopher Columbus. You had the Turkish Empire, the Muslim Empire, carrying on the international slave trade. So the Europeans simply bought into that. They bought into a system that was already there, selling us into China, selling us into India, selling us into Iran and Iraq and England and France. That had been going on before 1492. And it wasn't just a few white folks. Every nation in Europe, armed with the newest technology of gunpowder, which Marco Polo had introduced them to coming from China, now creating cannons and guns, weaponry we never thought could possibly exist in the human annals, is now attacking the African world. And so you got to take into account what's really happening. You're talking about France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, and other European nations, all attacking us at the same time with a new technology called the gunpowder technology. And with that technology coming at us from the Atlantic, and with the Arab Muslim incursion into our land from the north, and the Turkish, really, because they're Turks, the Turkish Ottoman Empire from the east and from the north, we were caught in a quagmire. We fought many, many wars. This thing didn't happen in a day. You're talking about close to 500 years on one hand and 2,000 years on the other. When you take the 1,500 years of the Arab war against us, the Turkish Muslim war against us, and you add that to the 400 years of the Euro-Christian war against us, you're talking about 2,000 years of warfare concluded in us being in the Americas.
Okay.
2,000 years of warfare by every nation in Europe and many of the nations of Asia and all of the nations of the Islamic world armed themselves against us. And that's the context.
He's gonna make some people.
Okay, so now let me ask you.
It should
You
be.
said, now listen, you said, Professor, that the Africans was here before Christopher Columbus.
Some
I agree.
Africans was here. Some
And then you said,
we are here now, and there's still Africans on the continent.
okay,
They
and
don't
then
pack up and
my
leave.
brother here from the UK, he came to visit.
He
You
ain't
leaving
from the
today,
UK.
right?
No, I'm leaving Friday.
Oh,
He-
wow.
He's sojourn.
I've got the Queen of Foods thing tonight.
Okay.
Okay. So now you said some Africans were here before Columbus, and
Some
you
Africans was in
definitely said-
Australia before Captain Cook.
right.
So what does that mean?
And you said that it was Africans here before that who they call natives.
That's right. There were some
And-
Africans in Cambodia before the white man.
So where did the natives come from? Where
But there were
who
some
are these
Africans in
people?
Thailand.
What is
before
the relationship with the African and the natives? Where did
No,
they come
stop
from?
calling them the natives because they were not natives. If the Africans were here first, then they're not natives.
Okay.
Even the
Okay.
Africans are natives. Okay.
Right.
Because there were other groups of blacks who were here even before them. One population come in, and most times the disease that population bring in kill off the population that was here before they got here. So we need to take all of that into account. That's why I go to Thailand today and look at all the ancient monuments. It's all African.
So
I
where
go, let me
did the
finish this.
Indians
This
come
is important. Listen to this.
Cambodian
I go to Cambodia and I look at the ancient monuments, and they're all Africans.
So
I go to the Philippines and I look at the ancient monument, and the people are still there. They're Africans. So what are people talking about? We were everywhere on the planet Earth. Does that then conclude that none of us was left on Africa to make a trip over here?
So this piece here, this is just a piece that references those Africans that really were in control of Southeast Asia, in Cambodia and Thailand. And so I brought it in here when Professor Smalls mentioned it, just to give you a sense. I'm going to be taking a group of people next year to Cambodia to see that great city they call Angkor Wat. So for those of you who are looking to do your research, that's one of those things you can look at. You'll see mountains that are carved in the image of Africans.
Right. Let's get something straight so people can stop the bull, right? African, the blackest black, the black blue people you see in the Sudan and other places, that's the parent people for everybody else on the earth. Okay. So if you see anybody running around with the little light-skinned self like Jabari and myself, we're the mutation off of that black pool. And so anybody you're going to call native or indigenous or aborigine who was hanging out over here, they mutated out of something blacker than them, and it wasn't here. So let's get real. We got physical anthropology, cultural anthropology, archaeology, genealogy, and all of it tells you where man and woman originated. And it's in Africa. And then we populated all the rest of the world. The white man, and even the white-skinned Asiatic you want to call native or Indian, that's a newcomer to the human experience. They weren't on the earth long enough to have any impact on any civilizations. You know? I mean, the truth is they're like termites that just got on the scene. And people don't want to deal with that because, well, we are all human. I don't quite know that. I say all of them, you know, they are mutations off of that black blue
There
man.
are children. There are
know?
children.
And
There are
when we
children.
understand, you're going to tell me the mutation, even the dark-skinned mutation who was already here when the slave ship came with mutations off of that black gene pool in Africa. Stop playing with yourself mentally because you're afraid to escape Christianity, Judaism, and Islam as a mind control element. If you're not willing to give up your addiction to white people, you'll always be looking for a way to demean being African.
And that's part of the challenge that we have, that people are using this to demean their African heritage. They're saying that we're not Africans
To
deny it. And sometimes I even wonder, Professor Smalls, now that we've heard about how foreign governments are involved in social media and doing certain things, sometimes I really wonder, is that really us doing that? Or is there someone that
Oh, no, they've got
supported
people
by
out here. They've
others?
always had people out here. They've always put their ideologues out here. They've always put their historians out here to twist and turn. One thing the European understand, if the African people, and particularly the African in the Americas, because we've had such access to technology, and the Africans in Europe, where you have had access to this Western technology, they are deathly afraid of you regaining your African essence.
Absolutely.
In terms of consciousness.
Absolutely.
They're afraid. They understand that giant, unleash him on the world, it's over. It's over for you.
It's over. It's over.
And so one thing that they've been very good at is to control black media, is to control what's in black media, and they're now doing it on Facebook and on the internet to make sure that they train people to try to take over the dialogue. That's why I be careful in how we address people like this. Kick them in the nuts, because people need to understand. I'm not going to play with you. I'm not going to let you come with some little psychopathic child's game to stimulate weak people's emotion so you can then try to confuse a certain segment of the population, create a false narrative that then create a false dialogue that leads to conflict. I'm not going there with you.
Now, let me say to you that the elders can speak so much more, so much more frankly than those of us
age give us
who are like,
yes.
yes.
Some things are so severely insulting to our ancestors.
They absolutely are.
That we have to speak.
They absolutely are. And when I tell people that
I'm a defender of our ancestors, that's my duty.
And when I get turned up because I'm saying that we're just disrespecting our ancestors and people don't necessarily understand it, that's really what it is. I understand that people of African descent for the last several hundred years are at a point where we have not been able to truly recognize and appreciate our contribution, our action, our movements. And so when those people attempt to frustrate it, I rebuff them. It's not because I have any personal problems with them.
They're still our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
We still must love them.
Yes.
But we can't sit by and
allow them to destroy
do
us.
things that are literally foolish.
Yes.
Because the technology allow you access to facts in a way today that you never had in the history of time. And for people to still be attacking being Africans, it is such a... Dr. Wade Nobles talk about this in his book, The Island of Meme. And what Dr. Nobles says, that black people are infected, that our mind is suffering from a European mimetic infection. And what he means is that the way our mind is organized to see reality is organized to see a reality that is anti-African. And even when you attempt in your conscious mind to do things African, something regurgitates up out of your subconscious mind and attack what you're trying to do with your conscious mind.
Well, I already have one.
Yeah, we'll at some point address the question of the Moors, because there's no distinct African people called the Moors.
Right.
That was just a label for African, just like we call ourselves blacks. We call ourselves Negroes. All of it was an allusion to our black skin. Moors was come from the Greek root word, which was first applied in literature, as we never see this word in literature until we see it in literature coming from the Romans during the Roman occupation and conquest of West Africa, before the Muslims come there by centuries. And so this it was just all they said, we went to the land of the blacks. Okay.
Now, they disagree with you when they say there was no people called the Moors.
There was no, Taj is one of my best friends. The brother Sabir Bey, that's my little son. Right. And we'll argue about these things. But see, there's no contradiction if we stop letting the label get in the way. See, because what Brother Taj is saying, because he used certain things, and Taj is a heck of a lecturer out of history to show that the very people we call them the Moors were the same people in killing. I ain't got no problem with that. I totally agree with that. We get confused on the label being used. And at the time in history, the label is being used. The very people who make up the Yoruba were the people in Kemet. But we don't call them Moors. Okay?
Same thing with the guys from Cameroon.
Right. Same thing.
That's what they were classing as a Moor. When they go back to their country, they're classed as their tribe.
When the people from the camera, when I look at just a little of diversion, but it's right on the same point. If you go to West Africa right now, the largest group of people in West Africa is called the Akans and the Yorubas. Do you know the Akans and the Yoruban is genetically 99% the same people? So we get caught up in the label instead of the Yoruba and the Akan. 99% they're the same genetic pool. Okay, you got the Ga, the Ewe, the Fan. The Ga lives in Accra. The Ewe lives in Togo for the most part, and the Fan in Benin. Genetically, 99% the same people.
We call the Gas the runaways.
Yeah. The Ga, all of them, as they migrated from the east and south central towards the west, looking for better food, more farmland. And then you got to remember, at the time much of this takes place, we're being invaded from the northeast and from the east by these white folks, the Turks and the Syrians and whatever those things were. And they're still over there occupying our land and calling it theirs. Do we say the people in Syria is indigenous? No, that used to be black people land. But they're there now calling themselves the indigenous people. So it depends on the time in history you find yourself in a location, and then that then determines how you label yourself as being relevant to and relative to that location. And so we get caught up in these labeling and positions in time and denying scientific reality about black genesis, African genesis. Africa is the parent of all people. The African woman is the parent of all humans. Okay? There ain't no way around that. The only person, and I tell my Muslim brothers, my Christian brothers, my Hebrew brothers, and my Yoruba brothers, and my Lucumay brothers, and my Moorish brothers, the only creation you will experience come through the vagina of a woman. In the Masonic temple, they got 2 pillows you got to walk between. Those 2 pillows is the legs of that woman. And no other creation happens in this world. Ain't no other God doing nothing. The only person creating is that woman, with the assistance of that man planting the seed there. So let's come back to African reality and get out of white folks' foolish fantasy, because that's what's wrong.
So the interaction with the Africans and what they would call the Indians, you know who I'm talking about.
Nobody
that made
called
us
them back then that. None of those.
That-
They weren't even called Africans back then.
right. No, I'm just using the words that where we could all
But we
understand
got
what
to
I'm
make that
talking
clear,
about.
because I don't want people to try and see.
So
you can
you
use the
saying that they
word
didn't
to
call them
anchor yourself.
Africans back then, but they
No,
called
the
them.
word African didn't become operative until really after the 1400s. Okay, there was one group of black people living in North Africa in a place called Algeria and Tunisia, and their ethnic name is Afriye, and the Roman acronym for land is Ka. So the woman went to Afriland, Afrika, where the Morouche, the blacks, live. Let's just be simple, basic, and real. Go look at Roman literature. It's available to be studied. The first time that word Morouche or Maurice was used in history that anybody can find to connote the texture of a human being was the Roman using the Greek roots for black to describe the people in North Africa they found there when they got there. Okay? And so, but we leave that alone for the time because that's too complex. Let's get back to the Americas now.
Here's a part of, and I don't know if I'll play the whole video. Maybe I'll give it to you, Sonnet, and you can put it in.
Yeah.
I actually, one of the things that I also respond to, and look, I'm African American, just like 90% of the audience. Person of African descent in the diaspora list, like the other 10% of the audience. So,
No, let me make
American
American I
African.
don't get caught up in that either. You pay taxes here, you vote here, you work here, you're an American. Stop lying to yourself. First, let's get that straight in our head. Racially, ethnically, and we should be culturally African. Okay.
But wait, I was saying something.
We're definitely, don't lose your thought now. We're definitely racially African. We're definitely ethnically African.
That's right.
But culturally, we're Europeans.
Okay.
Trying to be Africans.
Now,
But Africa is our race and America is our geopolitical place.
now
Don't
what I'm about to
confuse the
say,
two.
Professor Smalls,
Mhm.
I don't mean to cut you. You're my professor. You're the elder.
I'll cut you back, brother. I know how to cut.
I'm not
I'm from
trying to.
South Carolina.
I'm not trying to cut you. I'm not trying to cut you. But didn't Malcolm say it doesn't matter if a kitten was born in the oven, don't make them biscuits? So, right, I know that. So I'm reminding him. I told you I don't mean to cut him, but I'm saying if my mother took a trip over to China and she was 8 months pregnant and the water break and now I'm born in the Chinese hospital over there in China, does that make me a Chinese
No.
native?
Let me
So
break-
what
let
I'm
me
saying
break-
is
no, let me-
because let me
He
finish.
wants to get the African,
Let me
the
finish.
South Carolina razor.
Right.
Put
So
it on.
because we were here and born here in America, don't make us American, no,
No,
Professor.
stop it, brother.
Clear it
You're
up.
trying to
Clear it up.
equate a geopolitical state with a race. I'm racially African.
Okay.
America is not a race. It's a geopolitical state with multiple ethnic and racial
That's
groups in
right.
it. I'm saying that's right.
That's right.
So racially, I'm African.
Okay.
Geopolitically, I'm American. ethnically, I'm African American because I've evolved another whole culture to respond to my geopolitical location and the suppression of me that's different from the cultural ethnicity I brought with me.
You can't
And
even say it clearer than that.
You know,
You can't say it clearer than that. That should be written down.
See, I just know how to bring it out. You know,
He said it a second ago. Stop it. Stop it. You just said the same thing twice. Stop it. I know.
So,
But here's what I want to. This is what I want to say. So I'm actually, here's another part of this that can sometimes be difficult, painful, but a reality that we need to address. I don't think there's any of us that have not had family in other parts of the diaspora. Now, I'm not even including my brother Terry here. I'm talking about even folks that are in the UK. I'm sure they're saying the same thing we say here. They'll see a relative that's lighter skinned with long hair and a longer nose, and they'll say that they look like that because my grandmother, my great grandmother, my aunt was Native American. That's what you hear. It's in my family. It's in almost every family I know. I remember sitting in a classroom with Dr. James Turner, and a student said that, and he looked at her and he said, they must be Blackfoot because I can't see it. Making a joke about the fact that she's an African and we need to stop calling ourselves something else. But this is where we get DNA evidence here, right? Because we no longer need to simply talk about looking at the textual evidence and the archaeological evidence. Now we can look at the DNA evidence. And so what we have to recognize is that when we look at the evidence, we see something very curious. Now, first of all, let me say to you, I might give you this video, Sa. This video is from a lecture done by Dr. Gina Page, who is one half of African ancestry, right? The other half is Dr. Rick Kittles, right? The two of them together are running that outfit. And so she, as they have looked at diaspora Africans, primarily African Americans, throughout the years, maybe for 20 years now, they have large pools of evidence on our DNA and where our origin is. And so she asked the question, what percentage of this DNA shows parentage to those people that we're calling the Indians, right? What percentage? And, you know, folks in the audience answered in lots of different ways. Do you know it's 2%? And she said they were being generous.
Yeah. I grew up in a place where I have relatives that look like the Asiatics. Like I said, we had our reunion on the reservation 5 years ago. And in my genes, there's only 1 point something % of that gene in my gene pool. And that's the bulk of my gene come from East Africa, where my great grandpa is from, and from the overwhelming majority is West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon.
So let me add some complexity to this. That is where it gets painful, but we need to be real, right? So that number is generally when we look at the matrilineal DNA, we see about 2% of that is in same parentage with those people we call Indians today.
And I'm gonna really mess that up.
And 6% that we see from Europe, that's on the matrilineal DNA. When they study the patrilineal DNA, the DNA that comes from the male line, we see that it's about 1% native Indian, and about 34%. I have an entire video of our presentation that was done in 2014 at the African American Museum in Philadelphia. It was done for the African Genesis Institute, that group that I have been involved in, Anika and I have been involved in for almost 20 years. But what we're seeing here, first of all, is that we see so much more European DNA in the male side of our DNA, and so it's less in the female side. What is it saying? First of all, you need to understand that those things that you're seeing in terms of the phenotype, in terms of the traits of African Americans, we see the long hair, the long nose, those sorts of things that we say are Native American. You need to understand that these are European traits. They're not coming from those people that we call the Indian. That they're not coming from them.
Matter of fact,
and the reason why, yes, but here's the other thing. The reason why we see so much more on the male side is because we are seeing once again the history of the rape of African women. That's what this is. And so when I tell this story, in some ways, this makes people like our dear brother Dane Calloway and others run in the other direction, because this is a painful story.
But it's the truth.
But it is the truth.
Right. One thing
Get the mic.
the one thing I will always say is, don't you feel that a lot of people are mixing up the gene pool of the Fulanis as the native Indian?
You know, let me say this to you. I'm sure that some of those groups are doing that. I don't think that this group is doing that. African ancestry, but hear this, African ancestry has the largest pool of DNA on the continent of Africa. So that if you're going to other outfits, I'm sure that they may not have the sort of familiarity with the DNA traits to be able to speak to it professionally. But this group is actually, because they've done so much work on the continent, to be able to connect us directly to particular peoples, not just countries, but peoples on the continent. I would doubt that they would have that error.
Because the Fulani themselves is there's Fulani and Fulanis.
Yeah,
There's Fulani that look like you.
yeah.
There's Fulani that look like you. And there's Fulani that look like my wife, who's lighter than you with straight black hair.
My auntie's one. So.
Right. So Fulanis are not just one phenotype. Okay. They go to scale of being African. We tend to see those kids standing side the road in Ghana from Mali, and they would say, well, those are the Fulani children, and they got the little straight hair.
Yeah.
But there's also Fulani that's darker than you.
Yeah.
Hair,
No, I understand that because my cousin is really, really light.
Right.
He's really like almost you would say he's mixed race.
Right.
But his mother's Fulani. His father, who's my uncle, is Yoruba.
Right. Remember, the Fulani derives from the invasions of and occupation of the Roman armies, the invasion and the occupation of the Visigoth Germans who were there. See, because we think of North Africa, we only think of that Muslim period during the Ottoman Turks and the Moors. Remember, there's two white occupations that last for almost 1,000 years before the Islamic occupation.
Yeah.
And that's the Roman occupation, and that's the Visigothic occupation coming out of Spain, the Germanics coming out of Spain. These people are driven out finally by the Muslims who are coming out. Most of the Muslim army that would make up our allies, and then because they would then become our enemies, was first from the Turkish empire coming out of Iraq, and then from Yemen.
Yeah, because I will go on the terms of if you go into Nigeria, for instance, and you see what's going on, and if you understand the war that we're a place where they call Sokoto, which is the Hausas empire, and the Fulanis came into the houses and migrated themselves within the houses. That's why the Hausa limitations have gone down and the Fulanis have gone up.
Right. But remember, we just have to make sure we define who the Fulanis are.
Yeah,
These
I
are
understand.
the children of the Romans and the Germans and the Visigoths mixed with the Africans.
Yeah.
And during that period of the 1500s through the early 1800s, you got the West African jihads, and the Fulani with Shehu and some of the others and Ahmed. They're carrying on a war trying to conquer the indigenous people of Western Africa and force them onto Islam. And then we get this massive Fulani empire because you got Fulanis, because there was a whole Fulani empire in the early 1800s rather. And so now we're seeing these ethnic groups trying to reestablish themselves because of what was happening in the Middle East, not knowing that what was happening in the Middle East is all born in Israel and the CIA and the Mossad and M16 out of England.
Yeah, because this is where I was trying to showing you the forms of the migration. Because when you understand that once the Fulanis got into the houses, now there was another war that came along, which is in a place where they call Ilorin, and that Ilorin war was against the Yorubas and the houses, backed by the Fulanis. And then this is when the Portuguese came along from the coast, to able to sell the arms to the Yorubas, to able to fight until they had a treaty. So, and this
people
is
were
where
looking for any way to protect themselves.
Yeah.
But the Fulanis, again, just to establish them for who they are ethnically and genetically, they're already mixed with a European population. They are not an indigenous African.
That's what I'm trying to say. So when you get the straight hair and you get the kind of light shades, there's a possibility that this can be infiltrated into the gene pool before they became the slave.
But keep in mind, we're not talking about phenotype here. We're talking about genetics. Yeah, so that when people are actually able to do research into the groups,
Because there's some people they will say they're not going to do the DNA because they feel that they're
Seeding our giga. Okay,
Yeah.
I want it.
closer as possible. Because even on the times of the when the Portuguese went into is it Angola? Yeah, Angola, where they took the most of the people to Portugal, trained them up, and then brought them back in forms of faith.
Right.
And in that persona is you will see in a lot of old photographs, you will see the mixing happening from there.
Right, but just remember, Portugal don't even come into existence till the 11th century,
Yeah.
12th century. They're just a little piece of crackers that the Moors made a mistake and thinking because some of those families allied themselves to them and said, we're going to give you a little piece and you'll have your little kingdom. And they created their own demise. But it's like that whole El Cid story. When I watched the first movie on El Cid, he's a white man, but El Cid was really a dark-skinned Arab man, probably a black man who had switched sides and became a Christian. So, but that's why history and the study of genealogy has to be partners. They must have a relationship. And even talking to bring it back to what we were discussing about the Americas and who we are in the Americas. They were Africans here before Christopher Columbus.
Which
They were Africans here before the Asiatic, who we call an Indian. But they were Africans. See, and that's the point I'm trying to make. It doesn't matter when we showed up here. We've been here from some, Mom and them had a way of saying a long time you can't remember. So he said, we've been here since Binya Binyanda. And Binya Binyanda is longer than anything you can measure. So we were always here. But we were always in Europe. We were always in China. We were always in Cambodia. So trying to make a peculiar case about some particular black folks being here is ridiculous.
Because I always believe in that. Sometimes go a bit far back, and a lot of people get lost when we go far back. So I always try to bring something much more closer.
I like the Fulani because most people don't even know we have a people called the Fulanis. And they don't know the relationship to the Fulani people to West Africa during the period of enslavement, or those wars that took place that we were engaged in during that period that end up with some of us being sold as prisoners of war to the Europeans, because we had nothing else to do with our prisoners of war who had attacked us from the north. There are some shrines in northern Ghana that the Gumbo people have of the Arab and Fulani raiders. And what the shrines are, when they killed them, they buried their swords and their horse bridles and saddles as a shrine and did libation and other kind of rituals to keep them from coming back. And you can go to those shrines today and see the metal parts of those things still exist. So, but I would like a better introduction, though, of our brother from the UK who have joined us. So we know who to introduce himself. So we know who we are.
First of all, you should just know that he has an incredible platform as well, Black Ice TV. So
Have you ever been out there to see?
I didn't meet him there, but I did go.
We look after them all. Queen of Phil, Anthony Browder, Ronco Rashidi.
No, I heard about this brother. He said he didn't want me on his platform.
Because we got him on our platform. And Richie interviewed with Sankofa.
Don't even wait. This brother's trying to hide in what he just said. All three, we have been there. This is the brother that we need to drop.
Sarnetta needs to come over before. I know. No. Sarnetta needs to come before the award ceremony because
you have the application. You said you got it from him.
Yeah, because I'm going to be in Birmingham for ALD.
I didn't.
Because Anthony Browder's got
with Beanie.
With Beanie. We did the last year's one with Anthony Browder, and the following one was Genie, and then the other one was Umar Johnson. But you were supposed to come on
just before.
You were supposed to come with the Umar Johnson,
right? And I didn't because
everyone was crying. They said, "Where's James Smalls?" But we didn't come to see.
But I'll be there this year.
I'm always there because we do a lot of the filming over there. And as I said, it's for me, my background is why it gives me intensive work is understanding that I do a lot of research for people behind the scenes. I don't really put myself in the forefront, and I do tours. But I always welcome people that come from the States, and we host them in every aspect.
So let's come back to where we are, because the spirit needs to be fed, but it needs to be fed. Now, Jabari, bring us back to this American discussion.
Yes.
We got to make sure we seal this up nice and package it nice.
Well, I think that what we need to do is we need to just recognize that it's critically important for us to reconnect ourselves to the African continent. And there's no way for us to be able to really become the global powerful people that we need to become if we don't do that. And so any one family that is trying to disconnect you from the continent, you need to be in fact, just excommunicate them.
But here's what I said. That's what I said. Anyone who don't want to be African, that's more of the gold left for me. All right.
That's what I say sometimes.
That's more of the cocoa left for me. That's more of the bananas left for me. That's more space on the beaches, the most beautiful beaches in the world, left for me and my wife.
That's right.
There y'all go. That's right.
All the golds and diamonds.
Yes. So I won't have a little diamond ring now. I'll have a diamond bracelet. So you stay right here in America and you keep on doing your Jim Crow
Fooling
thing in
around.
black. Let me go home, you know? And I do go home. Me and my brother, Dr. Jeffries, and 86 others, we own the most beautiful hotel in Cape Coast. We're trying to get some money to get the fix up going. And thanks to Sonetta TV and all my brothers and sisters on Sonetta, thank y'all. The people were happy for the salary money. That y'all really took us across a bridge and being able to help our people at home. And right now, the government have stepped forward in Ghana and has offered us a partnership. If we are able to effectuate that partnership, then you would have saved the Sana lives. And I'm talking to the Sonetta family. Sana TV, you did well. I think you sent a total of about $5,000.
Wow.
You would have saved the Sana lives so that we can make the transition and do the comeback. So thank you, Madasi P. You know, now let's get back to this piece.
That's powerful.
That's very powerful. I mean, people were sending one day my PayPal had $1 in there. The next day my PayPal had $2,000.
You're like,
I'm like, what's going on? I thought somebody was trying to set me up. Right? You know? And it came directly from Sonetta TV. So that's why I'm thanking the people on Sonetta TV for helping with the Sana Lodge. The people at Sana Lodge, I told them what y'all did. They wanted me to thank you publicly, so I'm doing it on their behalf. And like I said, we've come into a relationship with the government that may work well with the tourism industry to show that our partnership with the diaspora and the nation itself that has to do with outreach to attract people back home is already in existence.
How many beds do you have there at Sana Lodge?
We have 30 now, but there's a proposal to build another 30.
Good. Okay.
So, yes.
Just a quick note: if you've got that, because what I'm trying to do is create a form of a worldwide tour guide. So all people from doing tours and information and all that kind of stuff. So it is a hotspot. So if you've got a hotel, it makes sense for people from the Americas or from the Europe to able to come down.
That'd be the anchor.
Yeah,
you know.
anchor. So what I do is I behave like the spider in the web.
Okay. I'll give you my cards because I also have a tour company, Cultural Heritage African Tours, for the last 30
so
years.
that's why I'm trying to bring them all together, because I spoke to Ronco Rashidi about it.
Okay, beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we can work. So let's tie up this America's
So
thing.
finally, and so what I was saying is that we need to be very cautious about those people that are trying to disconnect you from Africa. Those people that are trying to tell you that you're not an African, and even those people that are telling you that the majority of our people were actually, that the people that we are now are not the relatives, the descendants of those people who were enslaved. Part of the reason why that narrative has become so popular is because we actually are at a point where we still haven't told the story of our enslavement properly.
Right. And
That's the
and
challenge.
because people are afraid of letting go. I had a parable I used years ago that a ship has sunk and all you had to hold on was the water-soaked logs and bits of piece of the wooden part of the ships. And so here's somebody come up with a yacht. Somebody have walked up, rolled up with a yacht, the African yacht, and say, get on board. But this rotten log has kept you afloat for so long, you're afraid to let go. But what you don't realize, when a log gets water soaked, it sinks. And so we need to understand that we have to have the courage to let go of the Europeans' hands, because the European holding our hand have restricted us and made us one-handed. Let go of his hand so you have both your hands back to be yourself again. And don't be afraid to return to your mother and father, because Africa belongs to us. And the other part is America belongs to us.
Vaughn, you all right?
And I have no problem
Oh,
taking control
okay.
of both things. We built America, it's ours. We were birthed out of Africa, it's ours. The majority of us who are in the United States of America came to the United States of America from the continent of Africa, you know? So we need to be clear on that. And if you don't understand it, just study history.
Yeah.
One good thing about the white man, if there's anything good about him, he's a record keeper. And when it comes to his financial records, he keeps the best records in the world. So you look at the slave financial records, and you will find a lot.
Even on the trade routes and so on.
Right. I remember when I was doing work in Bristol and in Liverpool with Paul Abina, and years ago, and Doreen, and we discovered the tunnels and the passageways, and then we realized that the big insurance company in England was financing all of this, and right, and have a peace, brother.
That's brother Jabari. You know, you got no wrong.
How you doing, my brother? All right, sir. And so
Everybody get book. I don't feel special.
so
Only special people get it.
we want to be clear in this discussion. I don't know who the brother is. I've seen this stuff on, and it disturbed me when I first saw it on Facebook. We're not Africans.
Yeah.
And then it hurt my heart, because all we've done now is you got technology to try and protect our inbred European Christian identity, our inbred European Muslim identity, our inbred European Hebrew identity, and a rejection of our mothers and our father, which is African. And so all three of these traditions, we've turned them into beautiful traditions. They're just not effective for salvation. That's why we're in the situation we're in. Or we can sing the hell out of it, shout the hell out of it,
That's right.
read the Torah the hell out of it,
That's right.
regime the hell out of it. But when it comes to transforming our environment to allow our people to operate as a free people, all three have failed, both on the continent of Africa and wherever else we are in the world.
The challenge,
So,
the challenge
Let's
is that
claim
we are
ourselves.
attempting-
Let's own our being.
we are sometimes attempting to
Yeah, finish.
we are sometimes attempting to tell people, we are sometimes telling people that they have to use the very things that the mechanisms that put them into chains
to get them out,
to get them out.
and it doesn't work.
And so if we are going to once again become the people who we were when we were at the forefront of human civilization, we should simply look at what we did when we were. I mean, that's just as simple as it is. I mean,
Let me just
you know?
correct a little something. I like to correct little things. It's not when we were at the forefront of human civilization. We're still at the forefront of human civilization. If we look right in this room right now, without a Ghanaian scientist, we wouldn't have an internet. We can take that computer apart, and most of the things that make the cyber world exist is African. If we look at the American space program, remember that movie Figures, I think it was called?
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. Take those black women out of
Story
the
of the
occasion,
computers.
and they're still sitting on the ground with their rockets crashing.
Yeah.
And we can go right that through anywhere in the world, from the UK to the Caribbean to the continent of Africa. Take away what we have given to the technology of the West in medicine and science, and they're still in the darn cave. So we're still at the forefront, but we want to be at the forefront and be able to thrive there and enjoy what we've created.
We when I say forefront, I mean, I agree with you completely. But what I'm talking about is being actually in control of the levers of state
I'm not,
as we were years ago.
but I just don't want to let that go and make people think
make it feel like we're still
that they just beat us.
a lower
They beat us down.
They took everything. from us.
They didn't take
So
nothing
that's
from
the-
us. We
that's
just
the
hit
deal.
stuff and can't find it. But
Right.
when we go back to Africa, so we can look in the mirror, we'll see what the ancestors hid right here in Americas.
Right.
They hid a lot of good stuff.
Right.
You know.
All right,
Right.
brothers. We only got to 1:30. Y'all said y'all leaving. We got to roll.
Mhm.
Let's get our brothers' intake on because Rob Bourne been on the forefront.
Does he know what we're talking about, or?
No, he know. Rob
Okay.
Bourne been on the forefront, going back and forth with the brothers and sisters on the too, as far as with the Aborigines. So once he knows Smalls is here, we need him to go in and what's his take on the Aborigine. Smalls, let him go in on it.
Oh no, you got it. I've had the things I had to say. We got enough time
He already
for
broke
you
it down.
to roll up in
I
here.
want you to go in on that too.
All right.
Like what's going on?
Right.
Aborigines and the Africans and stuff like that. So give us some history.
All right. Peace. What troubles me about this is the fact that I happen to look on there like he did, and I see this man, Dane Calloway, and I'm looking and I'm like, Africans aren't African Americans. So I passed it. Then just being, on our Google Hangouts and stuff like that, I'm starting to see a bunch of people saying this. And I'm like, so what I'm looking at is, I think it was like a summer ago, we was debating a person saying that Nat Turner he wasn't African. His artifacts were stolen, and they're trying to hide the fact that you're native. Harriet Tubman is not real. Every organization that we have is a fraud, is fraudulent. And the thing that drew me over the line, they have a map that says the African slave trade is in reverse.
Yes.
That just did it to me.
Yes.
Once I saw that,
CIA
I'll
stuff.
show you the image.
once I seen that, I was like, okay, why is all these millions of people watching these people?
Because we've been effective.
That's right.
We've been effective.
So for me, for the past 2 years, I've been studying African culture here in America, or the Africanisms here in America, so that I could connect the two.
Right.
Be like, oh, we never lost our culture. So for them, one argument that I came here to do a little display on, if we have time to do that, is the term African. They'll say that we never used this term African until the 1900s. I'm like,
1900s.
you heard me?
No, that's late.
Yeah.
You
So
find literature on
when we look at this, their argument is based off of reclassification in the census.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give a brief thing
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I have to do this on a presentation. It's too long to do it. But when you look at the census, they'll say that Indians and Negroes were classified as the same, thus they are the same. It is true that Indian as a race did not come into the census until 1860. That's a fact. What they are not understanding is why, and they're not understanding the history of the census. The census was not designed to take enumerate the whole population. It was only designed to enumerate those colonies that they were in control of.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Constitution, it specifically state that Indians are not to be enumerated at all, because
They weren't a part of the nation.
exactly. So there's three different things that this takes place. It's a political thing to represent the representatives. It's a thing that deals with taxation and who to tax. And these people as a whole wasn't all property because they didn't go past certain frontiers at that specific point. So when we see that they didn't go past that, this is why they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at Thomas Jefferson, just a brief thing. When we look at Thomas Jefferson, he solidifies this in his query form that he fills out. And he would begin to state that the Native Americans that are on his frontier, he looks at those people as being Indian because they're fair skinned. The people that's in Virginia who are dark skinned, they are the wretched of the earth because they are contaminated with African or black blood. So then comes the one drop rule, and then it's too deep to go into. I just want to put that out there for those brothers. The purpose of the census was not to enumerate the whole entire population.
Mm-hmm.
So to deal with the term African, where are we using this? We have our first mutual aid society called the Free African Union Society. This is 1780. We have the documents. His name is Newport Gardner. And what he does is he has one of the second Back to Africa movements. So here we have them petitioning or asking the government to go back to Africa. Here we have this man is a teacher in the Free African School. This is the name of these organizations. This is the 1780s. So this is the Free African Union, Free African School, and he was a musician and he kept his name. So they also have something where in Rhode Island, where this person is from, called the God Little's Acre. And this is their burial ground there. That's not the oldest that we have, but it has the oldest headstones there. And on these specific stones, these people have their Akan names on the tombs, as if the same as the people named their name after the week with Tiki, Kuki. I can show it. I have it. That's why I'm right. It's all there. So we know those people knew who they were and knew where they came from. Another burial ground dealing in that same Pacific region in New Hampshire, we have 1801, Pacific name, Free African, slave in America, 1801. So just to go more in deep on this African term, I have to get this to their head. This is before there was a census. The census was created in 1790. This is 1790. I just told you about 1780. The first person with the first Back to Africa Union movement is Prince Hall, who's the founder of the Black African Lodge. Free African Lodge. And he wrote the Boston Plan. And the Boston Plan was to try to migrate back to Africa. So when we get to look at this and you saying that these people didn't do this, it's like you trying to erase this. And when you try to erase that, you erase our Holocaust. And because you don't want to be a slave. So on my, or you think that we were punks.
That's right.
That we just laid down.
That's right.
And the fact of the matter is we have over 500 rebellions documented on ships before we even came here.
And we have hundreds and hundreds more here that no one talks about.
Exactly.
He said what you said. Remember when I told you? I said, yo, I don't believe we had that many people came over here. Smalls went in just before you got here. He went in and showed how. Same thing you said.
And let's go further. One of the things that we don't even recognize, is even the first European settlement in the United States was destroyed by enslaved peoples. So this is why I say that we've been told the story of our enslavement the wrong way. That's the reason why we have the shame for it. I mean, we actually see folks like, and this is not an insult to Brother Snoop Dogg. There's reasons I can critique him, but this is not one of them. But when he actually heard about the television show Underground, he said, why do they keep doing this? They want us to still be slaves. Let's stop this. Let's get away from this. And he was really, what you were hearing was pain. People have this painful connection to our enslavement. We don't actually understand that the people who had the smallest number of resources, the people who were kept away from education for systematically over the course of decades, the people who actually had been taken from their homelands to a foreign place, united and destroyed the world's first global system, led by the most powerful militaries in the world. We destroyed a system. This is not a reason for us to be ashamed of our enslavement, because we actually destroy it. You look at at the Hebrew people, I'm going to say the Jewish people, because I'm not trying to get into debates with that particular other group now, and they look at their challenging period that they call their Holocaust, and they say never forget.
Passover.
But for us, we want to prepare, we want to pretend like it didn't happen. And that's because we don't understand what happened. I have shown this audience the image of Gordon. I think Gordon is the best emblem of how this occurs. An African man who travels barefoot, mostly at night, for 7 to 10 days to escape. And as soon as he gets to the Union lines, he doesn't say, this is the man that has all the lashes, that has borne the lash on his back, the most popular image of our enslavement. He doesn't say, you know what, I'm here, I was in hell, now I can rest. He says, give me a uniform and a gun, because I'm not free until we're free. And he goes back to the very place that he was enslaved. And when the Tom who, the European, was killed that was in that particular part of the army that was there, he leads the army, the force to free the place where he was enslaved. This is the metal that we're made of. This is what we did. If we knew these stories, we'd be proud of those people who were enslaved.
Let me add one piece that we could never forget. You can't forget the psychological damage of slavery, not just of slavery. Because see, when we came out of that so-called slavery thing, we were still pretty much in our African head. It's the psychological warfare that's being waged today and being waged through that period that Dr. Nobles called the mimetic European infection, that they're construct how our minds are organized. So even when you're consciously trying to do something black, that false construction they place in you regurgitate up and attack you who trying to free yourself.
That's right.
I just want to.
Yeah,
That's right.
and-
That's right.
And to like add to that, it's sort of like because we don't understand our history, we think that we was just all slaves that first originally came here. So I think it's necessary to go to a Pacific timeline because they don't teach you this in school, right? So with my little team, we call it New Black Knowledge. We like to talk about the free Africans and what we did and how we freed ourselves and what happened. So if we just start with where we at, we call it start where you stand. We know we have the African burial ground there. So let's get into this history. Who were the first people brought to just Manhattan? Who were they? So when we look at the records of these people, we know that the Dutch company comes later. We know the first person of African descent that's mixed is named Juan Rodriguez. And this is 1613. They leave him there. Some kind of argument happened where he didn't want to go back because he wouldn't know his status. And he became the liaison between the Native Americans when they came back with the Dutch West Indian Company. This company deals with the slave trade. They're on the west coast of Africa. They bring the first 11 black people here. Now, the same way how the colony in Virginia is founded, where they intercept British ships, this is what happened with those Africans that were first brought here. So these first 11, we talking about the 1600s now. These first 11, they were captured on the ship, they were brought here, and they were indentured servants. But by 1644, these people were free. So this is what we need to talk about. These people became free. And where did they live at? What did they do? They lived on the Pacific maps. They show it to you. They called the Negro House. And on these maps, it'll show you they live between Bowery. For those who don't know, Bowery means farms. And it shows you the lands allotted to these Pacific Africans. These people are free before there's a continental America. And then later, towards the 1800s, it begins to be called Little Africa. And then they move around and they go to, some people will go to Seneca Village, another Little Africa.
That's right.
So to speak about why aren't we taught about this in our history books? Because it shows us that through our evolution of going through whatever we've been through coming here, there was a distinction in kind.
That's right.
They knew who the Lenape was. They put us on that end part of Manhattan, which you have Wall Street, which they built the wall and let us live there as the buffer.
That's the buffer.
Because the Indians was attacking and that was attacked. So we'd be the first ones to go.
Yes.
So it's in that. But just to speak on the history, in 1690, you have a person named Prince who slapped the mayor in New York City for having an argument in front of his house. But we don't hear this. You have the riot. You have the riot of 1712 with Peter the Doctor, and this man is an Obeah priest, and they describe him as a Chromanti man, and his followers as the Pow Pow. So in these early documents,
That's right.
they're telling you these people are African.
That's right.
They're telling you what their culture was.
That's right.
Go to Karamanti now. The big town is called Abanzi. Armstrong say he was from Abanzi and he was a Karamanti man. He was doing this work.
So
That's right. When Dr. Clark was here, Dr. Clark always said, I'm never worried, because people always said, have y'all trained anybody? He said, we ain't got to worry about that. Just like we came about, they'll come about. And y'all are. I just, the few minutes I've heard you, I go like, damn,
Is it on?
they're doing it. No, I just want to praise my young brother. I'm not going to take up his time. I'm going to listen to you for the next few minutes, then I'm going to run to my dentist.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that just looking at why we are not taught this in history is because it shows us our potential and power.
That's right.
It shows that these Africans had their own place to live
Mm-hmm.
before they said you was free. I'm telling you, we had a place called, it was called the Land of the Blacks first,
Mm-hmm.
because we was downtown first before there was a Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved to 81st and 82nd Street, and then we moved all the way up as the immigrants started to come in.
That's right.
The point of this is that regardless of religious differences, these people were able to commit to do something.
Mm.
And when we look at that African burial ground in New York City, this is just baffling when they say that we're not Africans. They have the artifacts that's
right.
there.
That's right.
We have a
That's
shirt
right.
that the West Africans wore.
Uh-huh.
We have the sling that's there.
That's
we
right.
have the beads that are there.
That's right.
we have,
We have the symbols that they carved in the
the
top
Sankofa.
of
Sankofa
coffins.
symbols.
Yeah, if you just go to South Carolina, right, and I come from one of those free communities.
Mm.
We used to say the Freewood niggas. No, be straight, that's what we would call Freewood niggas.
Mm.
People say, well, don't use the word. Listen, we understand the context in which they use that word. The place I come from is called, one of them is called Bannockburn. The other one is now called Merle's Inlet.
Mm.
But back then it was the Freewood.
Mm.
So those of us who lived, white folks didn't come into Freewood until about the 70s.
Mm.
We were free, in the, they wouldn't even send policemen in there.
Mm.
They had to make black policemen who can come, and they just come for conversation.
Mm.
So if you live near Myrtle Beach, there was another Freewood up there, and they called that one Harlem later on. White folks didn't go up in there until the 80s. They finally ran a freeway through it and destroyed it. And so all up and down, if you go to South Carolina right now, you see Marysville, Parkersville, Fraser. Well, they were all Freewood. These were all the runaways communities.
Mhm.
And they're still there today. I mean, now, you know, the houses and little towns and stuff. But that was across the country. When the Civil War was fought, there was over 300,000 of us who were free, wasn't even a part of what was called the enslavement process. And the largest population of free folks was in Mississippi, around up on the mountain, up on the hill up there. You know, in the, I forgot that, the big town.
Where in Mississippi?
Yeah.
Birmingham.
No,
That's not bad.
not in the Delta area, but up in the northern part of Mississippi.
Right.
But the only point, I'm just substantiating what my brother's saying. There've always been a free African population,
Yes.
and that free population has always addressed the population that was enslaved, and always fighting to try to get that population out of slavery.
That's right.
Right.
We hear about the Maroons in
and-
other countries. We don't hear about
Right.
that here.
Oh,
and-
we hear
and-
about
And
them.
they're here.
Yeah, we were here. We
I'm saying,
probably
you know,
had
I-
the
you have
largest
to go
maroon-
further. You have to search far.
the largest maroon population in America. No, we don't have to search far. It's just that we got to recognize what's in plain sight.
Mm.
The Seminole is a maroon community.
Mhm.
The word Seminole come from the word Cimarron, which is the Spanish word for maroon.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And so they trying to baffle us by saying Seminole Indian with no such thing. That was the maroon African community. Some of us did merge with the Creek, Red Tail Creek Indians
Bingo.
down there, you know, and created that community, which they call Cimarron, but Seminole, but the word is Cimarron, meaning the runaways.
That's right.
We were the runaways, and we fought the most fierce war against America, won more victory against America than any population has ever fought a war against America. They don't even have a conversation. And we beat Andrew Jackson twice.
Yeah.
That's after the Battle of New Orleans. He came and got his behind kicked down in Florida. So we just have to be, and that's what y'all work come in. The work you're doing now, you just enlightened me about some things about New York. And I worked on the burial ground from its inception, you know, the first occasion.
Yeah.
And that history that you're doing and that your young brothers are doing, that's the future key to unlocking our people's minds. That's what the old man Elijah Muhammad was saying when he was telling us we need to know ourselves.
Right,
You
right.
see, all the people have been trying to tell us. Drew Ali been trying to tell us. Garvey was telling us. People can beat Mr. Booker Washington down, but Booker Washington was no crazy. He was just smart. If you can be in Alabama, Bill Tuskegee, right in the cracker's house, you smart. You ain't stupid. You know what I'm saying? He was smart enough to pull it off, but he never stopped focusing on who we are. Read Booker's stuff. He's very clear on being African, and he deals with it. And so y'all are on the right path. I know I'm gonna have to run out and leave y'all, but I'm honored to meet you, young man. I heard about you, but now I'm meeting my brother here, you know, from the UK. I heard about him, and we kind of need to be closer because I'm gonna give him a card because I'm gonna be in the UK in a couple of months.
And I speak on the mic just to promote Signet TV.
Oh, absolutely. But yes, I was going to make it very clear. Sonetta TV is on it. We're trying to get Sonetta to realize how significant Sonetta TV is.
I will be in the UK this
I think he's finally getting it with the awards on the 7th of June.
Yes.
And I hope the world pay attention because this is an opportunity for those people who don't have access to holding each other's hands and patting each other on the back and saying, well, work well done. This is an opportunity for them to do that.
Yeah.
But let us not get caught up in that though, because the work, though well done, is not done.
That's right.
And so we got to continue to do this work from cradle to grave. It's a freedom thing. And we've got to be clear on that. And the most beautiful thing in the world a man could do is to realize he got the sense to fight for his freedom. And to know that the only world worth creating is the one you create for your children and your grandchildren, because your parents already created the world that you're in. So now you got to create the world that they're going to be in.
Responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Your greatest responsibility.
So Sonetta TV is a beautiful phenomena. And what's your program?
Black Ice TV.
Black Ice, oh, right here, Black Ice TV. Have now partnered Black Ice TV 7 in partnership with Sonetta TV. That's a phenomena that's going to educate the world. And you are educating the world. I get calls from Thailand. I get calls from Ghana. I get calls from Germany from being on Sonetta TV.
That's right.
You know, so peace and freedom, blessings. And the youth, don't let nobody tell you y'all the worst generation we ever had. Y'all are the absolute best generation we've ever had. And you're probably better than even I understand. The things that y'all have done to change the world, you don't even understand it yet. But you will, because you're the best generation we've ever produced. You're the most powerful, and you're the most numerous. You know, when I was growing up, we had a leader here and an enlightened person there and there, but that's not true now. We got them all over. Yeah, we're going to have antagonists and confused people. That happens when you've been damaged and injured and broken. But let's not even be too hard on them, except to point out to them their damage, their injury, and their brokenness. Somebody just sent me a text saying, Brother Small, you know, you can still learn some things. There's African Aborigines. Let them, the person have not taken the time to look up the definition of the word Aborigine, and that breaks my heart. But I tell my brothers and sisters, don't be afraid to know. Don't play with labels. Define what labels represent. And find out what the word Aboriginal mean, brother who sent me the text. I love you. You're mine. That's why I'm out here doing what I'm doing as an old man with bad knees and all this stuff here because of you. Because I can go sit down in my nice house with my beautiful wife for 47 years. Hello, I got some kibasi here sitting right on the table now. You know what I'm saying? So I love you, but you got to study.
Yeah.
Stop being afraid to study. Go look up that word you just sent to me.
That's right.
And find out what the word Aborigine mean. And you'll see there's no contradiction in what I was saying and what the definition of the word is. But thank you again. Black Ice TV 7 and Sonetta TV. You're the intellectual light of the world. Keep doing your job.
And one more. I want you to tell the European people in Europe to get themselves over to the US.
The European people in Europe?
People in London, I need them to come over to the US on the 7th of July.
Oh, so don't call them European people. You're talking about the African people in Europe.
Yes, that's what he means.
Oh.
But I'm just giving it because some people, that's what they understand.
Okay. My Euro-African brothers and sisters, please do me this great honor. Come to America on the 7th. Let's come together. Let's celebrate Sonetta TV together. Doreen, I want to see you. Jeannie, I want to see you. Virgie, I want to see you. Get on the plane. Let's do this big. Let's make a statement to the world that we don't need them to inform us because we found the way to use technology to inform ourselves. We don't need to enlighten them to enlighten us. We will come and celebrate our young men and women who are enlightening us by themselves. And so we need to support Sonetta TV. We need to show Sonetta that he's done great works and that work has paid off, and he's allowed us an opportunity to get our message out around the world unimpeded. I know he's scaring everybody. They're shaking in their shoes because they don't know how to shut this thing down. You know what I'm saying? They've been trying. But come to America on the 7th of June, save your money, make this a vacation time, bring family if you can, and let's celebrate together. Let's close the gaps. Those of you in Ghana who can come, in Nigeria who can come, in Tanzania and Cameroon and Kenya and South Africa also come. Let's celebrate together and let's expand this technology so we can better inform ourselves. Peace and blessings. Hotep, Alafia, Baragani, and any other language we want to use. We can say love in any language we want and mean it, as long as it comes from your heart. Peace and blessings.
Peace.
You look to dialogue now.
Nah, I know you gotta leave, Professor James. I don't know what y'all was talking about. Go ahead.
Exactly.
You jumped right in.
Oh shit.
You jumped right in.
Oh.
You the author.
He jumped right in.
The author is Oyinka. He's on the front page.
Now Rob Warren was right in the middle of it.
Do a lot of the research for
Oh,
it.
my glass. Sign the book.
I can't sign another man's book.
Yes, as a gift to me from you.
Okay.
Oh, that's a smart way to do it. Do you have a pen?
No.
Here, wait.
Yeah.
Hey, you can go in, Rob.
Yeah.
You know,
I
Here's
wanna
a
get on
question.
before
You
this-
want to get a question? Say something. Say something.
Bill with Jabari, because I know y'all too. Y'all will go in, man.
You want to ask him a
Yeah, before
question?
you leave, Professor Moore, because I didn't hear everything y'all was talking about. Your name is being used as a source now to say that you said that you were scared to teach that you was indigenous because the Pan-African community would disown you.
No, they see that's how people take the shit out of context.
Yes.
I'm saying when we were young, down south, we always, because we didn't know another term, so we used to say we were Indian and black.
Right.
But when you got older, like when we left home I lived in the woods. I grew up
Oh,
on a village,
you from
and I'm the bush. I'm bush Negro, straight up, straight ahead. And so, but when we came to the cities, people laughed at you when you said that. So that was the
Oh.
point I was making.
Okay.
Not only did we make that reference to ourselves, but we went to the mounds, we went to the graves of our people,
Mhm.
and the method in which we buried. The ones who were indigenous there, they bury in mounds.
Mhm.
And those of us who was from the continent, especially we had Congo, we had Akan and Yoruba and Igbo, and they buried, and you know which one it was from the decoration on the grave
Boom.
and what they put on the grave.
Exactly.
And so that's what I grew up in. I didn't know that was abnormal till I left home. That's the point I was making. So when you tried to make that equation, people thought you were trying to deny being from Africa. They're trying to make it the reverse.
Yeah,
No,
That's right.
I'm
I
trying to
was
say,
like, "Where's this video at?" He's like, "Professor Small said
They always do
hey,
that.
you don't
Yeah.
respect
Show me the
the
video.
elder." So I said
Yeah.
that to say this, right?
no, you just what you said here today, tell me you respect me, you right on it.
Yeah.
See, they were our people who were here when we got here. They had come from Mali. They got a record of when they came. But if you know anything about West Africa, like I was explaining, I was in the U.S. Navy and we sailed on that coast. I was stationed in the Gran Canary Islands in Las Palmas, all right? And we sailed down to the Bahamas. Some white guys a month ago got in a damn rowboat in Las Palmas, Gran Canaries, and sailed into the Bahamas.
Because of the
And
current from
that's
the-
right. So if some crackers today can do it in a rowboat, we were doing it all along. All right. And
I
that's a
got you.
part
So-
of the discussion in Africa
Yeah.
that we were coming and going, visiting this place. We show Columbus how to get here. He knew he wouldn't go on to know India. Because if he wanted to go to India, he could cross the continent by foot or come across the Mediterranean and get in the Indian Ocean. He knew where he was going because the Africans told him what was here. But he couldn't find what he came for. He was looking for the gold and stuff. But when he didn't find it, they threw his butt in prison. Most people know Columbus spent most of his life in prison after he went back.
All right. So and another thing with that is Columbus never set foot in North America.
Never.
Nope.
Never set foot in
Um,
South
You didn't
America.
see it.
Yeah,
Wasn't close enough to see it.
La Casa says he describes the first people brought from New Guinea over here. He
Mhm.
just calls them Africans. I just want that because they like to throw this person's name out there.
But
Like for the source of the Abu Bakr II,
Abubakar.
Abu Bakr II, his thing comes from Al Umari, and Mr. Al Umari in the corpus of the corpus of West African early records. That's what we have, the Arabic records to show where he came. It literally only spans
African records written in Arabic language.
Right, there you go.
Okay.
It really only spans about 2 pages. And when I read the story, and a lot of people use the story, it says that first it's a secondary, it's passed down, number one. So it says he learned from the brother in Egypt, etc. Then he said, okay, first they sent 200 ships. Then he said, okay, they came back. And then he sent 2,000. And this person never came back. So in the source itself, it says they never came back. So for me, when I read this, I'm like, could Africans went over there? Yes, they could have went there.
And they did.
I would
That's
say
a part of the folklore.
yeah, I would say that if they had 2,000 ships, we should be able to see the ship industry in West Africa. I don't think that it was intentional. I don't think it was. That's just me from my
No,
studies.
they have an industry there.
A shipbuilding industry.
Yeah, but don't think of it as the shipbuilding of today or even what came out of Europe, because you didn't need what came out of Europe to get here. I just told you the white folks came over here in a rowboat the other day.
I believe
All
that.
right. Okay.
Do it.
So if they can come over here in a rowboat, no, it was all on BBC News and they were getting a,
Professor,
this
you
is-
saying from Africa
to here in a rowboat.
came over here in a
Pretty good sized rowboat. This was all on the BBC. What was this, about a month ago?
It's
Yeah.
not the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Every
So the point is, if you ever see the African dugouts, some of them is wrong as
Yeah,
the
the
room.
dugout. Yeah, I saw
All
that.
right.
The oldest one.
And you see them out on the sea and how them brothers manipulate that. They cross the Atlantic Ocean, nothing. I lived on that Atlantic Ocean for 2 years. When you're out on the ocean, the provisions,
Yeah.
having food and water to survive.
Yeah.
When you're out on the ocean, except in a storm, it's calm. It ain't like them waves we see when we're on the shore. Once you get past those waves, you're on a big slice of blue glass. I was in the U.S. Navy. I lived out there. Okay, for 24 months. That was my home. The ocean is not as treacherous as you say, except when nature decides I got a storm brewing out, then you're in trouble. So when you realize and see the type of dugouts they have in West Africa, they could have made it here with no problem.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna say that. I just don't think it was intentional. We're going straight to West Africa to North America to get there. Because when I see the evidence, it is show that current that goes through Brazil.
Right. Well, the current comes in through the Bahamas
Right.
and Brazil, but it swings more into the Bahamas.
Right.
But the fact that once people get on land, they walk where they want.
Exactly.
We know there were black people in North America before the slave ship, but there were no appreciable number. And the other
Okay.
thing that people got to understand, most of those people died from white diseases before we even got over here. See, that's the other thing nobody wants to talk about. The immunity against the common cold, immunity against influenza didn't exist. The common cold and influenza act like pneumonia would act on me and you today. And it killed most of the people. There was one, I forgot whose chronicles I was reading, that the smallpox that hit South Africa so bad, the ships had to stay out for months because the stench of the tens of thousands of people had died. People don't understand that white folks didn't kill us with no gun. He weren't that bad. He killed us with his disease. You know? But the African from the continent, now we've been dealing with that crack for 3,000 years. We had gotten immunity to him.
Right.
The Greeks, the Romans, the Visigoths, the Arabs. So we were pretty much immune to his stuff. We're the strongest dude in the world. And so we came here because they knew what we knew. We didn't come here because they wanted to work some black folks. We came here because they were looking, they had found some land. Agriculture was the only thing they could do, but they didn't know a damn thing about doing it. They went to the one place where some people had taken the science of agrarian and agricultural science to a level that it would make sense. They see it as far back as ancient Kemet, but definitely in West Africa. And so we were brought here to be the architects. We were brought here to be the metal workers.
Yeah,
we were
metal
brought here to
workers.
be the brick
Yeah, it's
workers.
really,
And we were
yeah.
brought here to be the farmers.
All right.
And when I started talking there earlier, I was going to talk about the nets because we fish a certain way where I come from in the South. And there's a net called casting. You know what a cast net is? Put one end in your mouth
Right.
and you swing. Okay. And then you have the cow horn in the middle where you draw the line. I used to make those things with my grandfather. The genesis of it is the ancient Kemet.
Yes.
Okay. We had the other net that they use in Africa today that you see them pull when you're going along the coast. We call it seining, that big long net with the weight on the bottom and you go out and form a U. My big brother and them would go on the boat and they'd make the U. You anchor the net out on one side and you let it sit for a couple hours until you feel the weight of it pulling. Then the whole community would pull and we sing. They do the same. When I got to Africa, see them doing that. I thought it was back in South Carolina.
I saw it right out. Right
Well, it comes from Africa, brother.
That's my point.
Yeah.
The very needle they use to fix the net. It's a needle that's shaped like this with a little thing down the middle. The very needle Grandpa would fix his net with, that's the needle they still use in Ghana today. So we got all of the things that show we came from there. We brought our tools from there. We brought our culture from there.
Right.
You know, so
we gotta. I don't want to cut you, but we gotta specify this because whatever you say is gold to these people.
yeah, I
So
see that
when
now.
you say,
we tried to do.
yeah. So when you say that, we know that Africans could have came here. They want to. Oh, Professor Small said that we
Right.
came from
Well,
West
see,
Africa.
we
There
don't
was a
wanna-
million of us who came here
Yeah,
already,
that's
and we was
crazy
already
stuff.
here.
No, but we can't deny. See, we don't want to be them. We can't deny that we were here. We were here. Some of us were here.
Argument that,
But that's a very small amount of people.
yes,
There is nothing to show an appreciable population.
that's right.
And much
There
of
you
that
go.
population was in Southern Virginia and primarily in South Carolina. The Owendals, the Waccamo, the PD, the nation that I'm related to, Jacora. But these nations were decimated by white diseases. And the rest of them married into the brothers that came over later. This is shit, the family hit. They didn't marry into the Asiatics. They married into those of us who came, you know,
Right.
and we form armies. That's when you look at our resistance movement, the African from the continent brought with them a style of warfare. Nobody wants to deal with the fact that we
Exactly.
fought.
Exactly.
We brought a style of warfare. We had just gotten through with the Fulani Jihad, Shehu's Jihad. We had been in wars before the cracker got us, so we know who we were. He may have come with his gun and took away our stuff, but we used that war technology over here. That's what created the Seminole Nation, and that's what created other Maroon communities. And when we studied this thing, we weren't crazy. Even when we left Florida, we went to Mexico. Half of the Seminoles escaped and went to Mexico, fought in the Mexico War with Emiliano Zapata. Matter of fact, Zapata himself was an African.
Yes, it was.
Matter of fact, the dude who led the main revolution in Mexico was a brother from
Yongo.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
I think Nigeria or Angola, one of those two areas.
His name is Yongo.
Okay. That sounds like Congo,
Gaspar Yongo.
Congo, Angola.
And on his plaque it says that the African who
That's right.
liberated.
So the brothers and sisters who are raising these either are one or two things. Either they're deliberately ignorant and don't want to study. They're ashamed of themselves because the white man has made being African something you don't want to be because they're going to attach the slavery to it. See, what we don't understand, Africans was never enslaved in America. That's what they probably play. See, they might have heard me say this. Let me tell you what I was saying. I was saying because the only person that can define my condition is me. You can put some chains on me, but you can't make me a slave. That's the point I think I was making, and somebody may have twisted that. All right. Because what I was saying is that I'm never a slave. I'm not a slave. My ancestors wasn't enslaved.
That's right.
Somebody tried to enslave me, but that was his mind. That shit was in his mind. You could put me in a cell 2 foot by 2 foot, and I'll still be free. You can't take that.
That's right.
And we didn't give them that.
Right.
And that's why we were able to fight to destroy this nation.
That's right.
The Civil War is our war of liberation.
Yes.
Without us, these suckers would still be whistling Dixie today. You know, that's our war of liberation. And so, no, I'm an African from the continent. My Pat Joe was sold into slavery at the town. That's my great-grandfather. Matter of fact, I was trying to put him up on the internet last night, and I couldn't figure out how to do it on my Facebook thing. I got grandma up there, though. Yeah. So I got a picture of his wife, Matt Hope. That's my great-grandma. But Pat Joe came, him and his brother and his mother were sold into slavery into the town clock in Georgetown, South. We call it the town clock now, the old slave market. Now they want to call it a rice museum. Ain't no damn rice museum. That's a slave market. So the rice museum.
It's sanitized.
I'm serious, but people are still fighting to get the right label put on there. So, and they sold him and his mom into slavery to a Virginia family. At 16, he's 7 feet tall.
Wow.
He's Tutsi. So he escapes from slavery with his mom and his brother. He don't know any place else to go except the place he remember coming from as this little boy. So he comes back to Georgetown, to the slave market.
Oh.
On his way there, he gets picked up by this white boy named Austin, who owned a plantation on Paulus Island, and they hires them as free labor. You know, so that's my great grandpa. But the point I want to make is that no, when I say we were never enslaved in America, I'm saying mentally we never categorize ourselves in that way.
Right.
That's the white man head that says I was a slave.
That's right.
That's not my head.
That's right.
I'm an African.
Right.
I'm free.
That's
I'm only enslaved. I'm not even enslaved to the damn divinity. I'm recognizing my divinity, and my divinity recognizes me. Because I don't think that, and God isn't a thing, a person, or a place. It's every and all things at once. That's what all African cultures say. And I'm an aspect of that every and all thing. So I don't even have to be a slave to that. Only thing I got to be a slave to, I think, is my wife, and she want me to do stuff I got to do, But again, brothers, it's beautiful being with you, young brothers. I know I got to run because I got a dental appointment, and you always got to hit those on time.
It's nearby.
No, but it'll take me about 15 minutes. If I'm 15 minutes late, sister's cool because I've been gone for them for years. But keep doing your work, free your people with your mind, and use your words.
Nice meeting you.
I just have to say that I just got to say that I am so excited to be able to sit with brothers who are not only grounded but also doing research, because when you're grounded and doing research, then we're able to give information to our people that will allow us to actually elevate. It'll allow us to actually take this to the next level, so that those stories can now live and that those practices can live, so that we can build institutions that support each other, build institutions that allow us to figure out how to garner the kind of financial support to be able to support our babies, to build institutions that will protect our health, build institutions that will further educate us. I think that it's powerful sitting with these brothers, and it's also powerful because I know Rob Bourne does some serious research. Whenever I hear him speak, he speaks. This brother speaks with dates. There are few people that are able to do that, right? And so I'm excited when I'm able to sit with him, because I know that he gets deep into the literature to be able to prove his points. And when we're able to prove these points, we'll be able to dispense with those people who are seeking to lead us astray. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, man.
I actually feel better hearing that Rob Bourne is also on this particular issue, because it seemed like it's been growing unabated for some time. And you did what I did. We looked at it and said, that's ridiculous, and ignored it. And then all of a sudden you see 1 million views. You meet people in the street that say, oh, you still on that African stuff? We Aborigines. You're like, what? What is going on?
Good.
So we
leave Africa to me.
Exactly.
You take your Aborigine and go downtown to Wall Street.
And go downtown. Because what we have to do is we have to be able to recognize who we are, so we're able to build institutions that serve us.
Yeah, because that's the major point. And I just want to say that we do have relations with the natives here.
That's right.
So like a lot of the brothers want to throw out the Yemenis, and I'm like, yeah, there was a Yemenis war, and we ran away from our so-called masters, and we was fighting with them.
Right.
But it ebbs and flows, because again, like when we first came here, to order to get our freedom, or the people from from Portugal, with Juan Garrido, Sebastian Torrell, and Juan Valentinus, these people were conquerors here. I'm saying, so there's something I need to show, because I want this to be on here.
Show it.
Let me get this
So as he gets his things ready, I mean, really what we're trying to do is we're trying to explain that we're not countering that Africans were not here before the European. That's not what we're trying to say. But I think that Rob Bourne's further questions, Professor Smalls, even highlight this even further. The overall majority of us are the descendants of people who were enslaved in a system that we destroyed. If we are able to explain it that way, it will able to understand the context of our current day situation, so that we're both recognize that Africans had all the technology and the know-how to make long journeys, and also had treaties and relationships with other people that were here. And then also we're able to tell the story of how we came here as enslaved peoples. The majority of us, we're talking about tens of millions of people came here as enslaved peoples. The majority of the people that are here are the descendants of those people, not the descendants of other peoples. Even when you see grandma has the long hair and the straight nose and all this stuff, that's generally European lineage that you're seeing. That's what you're seeing. And I know that we want to tell a story other than that, but who told you there was something wrong with being an African? Who told you that an African was not the most powerful, the most educated, the most intelligent, the most beautiful person on the planet? Why is it that you're trying once again to be something other than that? Why is it that when someone brings you up the science, you say it's the white man's science? Why is it when someone shows you the records, you say those are the white man records? Why is it that when you show the actual detailed discussions of enslaved peoples who talked about the stories they heard from their recent ancestors on their journey here, why are you saying that those are manipulated? Family, if you are listening to them say that everything is a lie, then maybe what they're telling you is a lie. Even on the basic sense of it, you have to say this makes no sense. And so this is not personal to Dane Calloway.
Right.
I don't know you, Brother Dane, but I'm going to tell you that I want to be able to stand in front of you at a podium so I can tear up your ideas because they're dangerous for our community. That's why I keep saying your name, because I want to be able to tear up your ideas at a podium. And I could think of no other brother to stand next to me than this brother here. If the two of us did this, it would be ugly. It would be ugly.
Right. And don't forget, he's prodigy or workout, true historian.
we would rip it up because I think that that's what needs to be done. That and family, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't that now we're saying that you should be comfortable with the story the European told us. That's not what we're saying either. We're saying do the research. Don't just look at one picture and another picture and say they look the same. That's not research. And that's what Dane Calloway does regularly. By the way, he even tells a story of the census in the 1920s in Virginia.
Yeah.
The 1920s? My father was born in 38. Maybe I'm older than Dane Calloway. That doesn't dictate who we say we were. His parents weren't saying we're Native American. Wait a minute, the state changed our name. I don't even think I set it up. Let me put the regular password in for you first. So, I mean, that's what we have to do. We have to get to a point. You trying to get to your email or something?
No, I'm trying to get to Google so I'll show the next
Just use this one. This one's already connected.
Okay.
It's probably faster. So, that's what we're trying to do. And by the way, he also, that's in Virginia. So just do what you got to do. That's in Virginia. That's not nationwide. In his video, I would love to just dissect each video. He says they destroyed the way that Native people were defined in Virginia in the 1920s. First of all, we have records of Africans that call themselves Africans way before that.
In the first place.
When you say how was it made, what do you mean?
As Robo and them lot will talk about the Virginia Company.
Yes.
And understanding that it's a piece of land that was owned by the British.
Yes.
So then they cultivated and brought their slaves from where they came from,
Right,
to put them into that place, which now it makes to say that there were African people there.
Yes. Yes.
So now anything you try to justify, it doesn't make sense.
But understand what he's trying to do. It is true that the officials in Virginia did some things to try to misrepresent and take away the things that they were owing to the Native American people. That is a fact.
Yeah, no,
But family, look at his video carefully, and you'll see that he's talking about Virginia, and then all of a sudden he's talking about the nation.
yeah,
How do you talk about one state?
yeah.
Not even colony. We're talking about in the 1920s. There were 49 states. One state dealing with Native people at a time when we clearly have history of African people, clearly long histories of it. So then, are you telling me that they made some changes on paper and now we're confused about who we were? My grandfather didn't know who he was until something happened in 1920. But when my grandfather was in New York at that time, how does what happens in Virginia affect the entire nation in the 1920s? You have to really listen to these videos and analyze them because they're dangerous. By the way, he's a master editor. Have you seen his video, Sa? The editing on it is beautiful.
Oh, he's nice.
The editing is beautiful. The editing is beautiful. That's one of the reasons why it reaches so many people. But the actual scholarship of it it's the worst that you can possibly imagine. And when I look at the way that he takes one thing and makes it sound like something else, then it tells me that he's doing something
Do
intentionally.
you think he would debate anybody or no? Because
My understanding is that other people will debate for him because he's trying to remain in the background. And that says to me sometimes that perhaps someone's putting him there. And that there are other people, you know what I mean?
Al Sharpton, because Al Sharpton wouldn't dare come out and debate nobody.
But I'm not even talking about Sharpton. I'm talking about, when I said I'm talking about Russian, I'm talking about governmental sources. I'm talking about people placing people in certain places to misdirect the actions of a community.
Can't get it, Rob?
Because
I got it now.
Rob had the first contact with him, didn't you, Rob?
Yeah.
You spoke to Dan Calloway?
Yeah, I spoke to him.
Spoke
I
to
was
him.
messing with I was on there with Lex Vortex.
With Dan?
Yeah. It was me.
I just heard this. How can I just
heard this.
I mean, like
I just
at the end of the day, my brother True Story, everything that we showed him, or even what I was saying, like I brought up, he said nobody used nobody used the word African until 1900. Okay.
In the 1900s.
Into the 1900s. So I said, okay, here's free. Yo, that's a misclassification. Bro, here's the preamble of the society. Who's backing it? Who's funding it?
What about the African Methodist Episcopal Church?
First next one they'll say,
So
that's the
it got to the point where it's to the point where they'll do this, right? They'll say, okay, the ACS, the American Colonization Society. This is what I was speaking with the brother on. They have this in their brain. They sent people from here to Africa. I said, okay, they did. They sent people to Sierra Leone and Liberia. These are the people who founded it.
Right.
Now, the problem is the dates and how many people.
Yes.
So when you do this, right, it's like, all right, they sent people there. How many did they send? We have the records of the ACS.
Wait, step back.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand the context of what he's saying. Dane Cook argues that native people from here were taken to Africa, and then the people that came over, some of those people that we consider enslaved Africans, were brought back. So that they're actually native people from here. And if there are Africans on those ships, they're actually not Africans. They're people that were taken from here to there and then brought back. But what Robin is trying to explain to you is that he's off by hundreds of years.
People, because the society will tell you that they took from 13,000 to 16,000 people.
Right.
That's it. And they only came from that area.
Right.
Is there a way that you could get me in touch with him?
I don't have his number. I just happened to be on it and he popped up.
So you think Lex Vortex got it? Oh, he just popped up or something.
He just popped up. To me,
So
I think it would be a good thing to have. It will have a good thing to have, brothers this, but he's not gonna want that because I know he's seeing like, wait a minute. So just one thing, in 1811, you have Paul Cuffey. He's
That's right.
Indian. And he's an African.
Well-
He's one of the first people to start bringing people from here over there. Then comes what you call the British or the Black Poor, and those were the loyalists. These were the people who fought on the British side during the war.
That's right.
They was promised their freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. We have at this early date that once they lost the war, they took them with them. But this side with the Patriots was like, nah, we want them slaves. They was like, nah, dude, they coming with us. So then they started to go there. They went to Nova Scotia. They stayed in Canada. They wasn't living too well. There was also Jamaican Maroons that was a part of it that was there. They didn't like it there. So it's like, yo, we out of here. These 450 people now go to they become the Black Loyalists. They now go to Sierra Leone.
Mhm.
This is way before this happens.
Right.
So, and then there's the Providence or the Company of Sierra Leone. That originally was about agriculture. This wasn't about exploiting the people. So when you're not telling this story correctly, he's really slick.
Yes.
He's telling
Yes.
history that is correct,
Yes.
but
Yes.
you look it up and you be
Yes.
like, that's that name.
Yes.
That's this name.
Yes.
He'll
Yes.
talk about, oh, look at the Kentucky colonization. And you're like, dude, why in the first place did Africans here or Black people here want to leave here? What was the purpose of even immigration in the first place?
Mm.
So they will begin to start to pick out the little things. Or Frederick Douglass said, I don't want to go back. Or
Mhm.
John 14 said, I don't want to go back. Or Martin Delaney, I don't want to go back.
Martin Delaney was taking people back.
Yeah, but in the beginning, he was against it. See,
Yeah.
This is the argument that tore the community apart. This is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a 200-year argument. Do we stay or do we leave?
Mm-hmm.
Some didn't want to go.
Yeah.
But you have to understand this one difference. the people who wanted to leave who were African, their idea of immigration was that we will have a better life there. The European thing was not that. It was, we're going over there to colonize this
Yeah.
shit, and we don't want you free people here.
And by the
Now
way,
that goes, I'm gonna wrap it up.
Yeah,
That goes back to the history. Why? Who were they trying to send there?
yeah,
The free blacks.
yeah,
Who was
yeah,
causing
yeah.
all the revolutions here?
Right,
The free blacks.
right.
We don't want these educated free blacks
That's
here.
right.
We want them
That's
up
right.
out
That's
of
right.
here.
That's right. And you know, this connects to perfectly to even the story of Abraham Lincoln, because we don't recognize, and we need to talk about the Civil War more, right? But we don't recognize that as the North was losing, because see, look, the North had more soldiers. There were more soldiers in the North, but the problem is most of the military schools are in the South. So the South had generals. Most of the people who were truly skilled in warfare were in the South. And in addition to that, the Northern armies were going to the South. So even the Southern armies had better use of the terrain, right? So the North was losing. Abraham Lincoln was about to lose the Union. Until, and this is, you can just go right down to time, Rob Bourne, you and I have to lead Sonetta and maybe some family on a tour of Lower Manhattan. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So they can go look at the older churches there and the use of the word African, the African burial ground. We'll even go look at the statue of Horace Greeley. Because what does Horace and what did, oh yeah. The first Africans probably came on 125th Street all the way by the FDR Drive. Well, listen, I'm going too far. But we have to, he's getting me excited. You see this? So what we have to do is we look at Horace Greeley. He challenges Abraham Lincoln, saying the reason why you're losing the war is because of your first policy. What was Abraham Lincoln's first policy when the war started? He told the South, if enslaved people come to the Union Army, what will we do? We're going to take them back to your plantation. That's what he was doing. So Horace Greeley says, you are fighting the war with a hand behind your back. He actually chastises Lincoln, and Lincoln finally recognizes that to win the war, what does he need to do? He needs to allow these enslaved peoples to fight. That's what he does. He says we need to allow the enslaved people to fight. And so then the South has to fight the war on two fronts. Their men are off fighting the North, but they know that at home, the enslaved people they had, all the men are off. They're going to actually take over your town, burn down your home, take your wife, kill your children, and run away. So now they had to fight a war on two accounts. That's why they started to lose. And then when they actually had actual formerly enslaved African troops, they fought. There would be larger armies of northern white troops and smaller armies of formerly enslaved African troops. And as formerly enslaved African troops would win decisive battles. They were fighting for something different.
And that's where you got the poor Africans in Europe.
Yes.
They were the people that fought in the Civil War that went to Canada, and from Canada they went to England, and then from England they went to Sierra Leone.
Mm. So that's right. So this is what happened. So the Africans fight the war, and as the tide of the war is changing and the North is beginning to win, what does Lincoln do? He actually invites all of the most powerful free preachers to the White House. And then he decides he can't have them in the White House. He has them off the White House grounds. Mm-hmm. And he says to them, this war is probably going to be won. We've already signed the first Emancipation Proclamation. There were two. Most people don't realize that. And so what we want to do now is we want to be able to allow these individuals to now be free, but you know that having you here is not good for us, that you are inferior. And as long as you are around the superior white man, you're not going to thrive. So what we plan to do, and why I'm here is I'm asking you to speak to the masses of your people and tell them that we need to actually send you to another colony, so that when the war ends, his plan is to actually take all the formerly enslaved Africans out of the country. And he says it looks like they were looking at Honduras, probably in Central America. So this is what happens. If it wasn't for the fact that he was actually killed shortly after the war was over, perhaps he would have tried to send formerly enslaved Africans to another country. His plan was never to have us stay here. So you have to understand the context of the war, how the war was fought, who won the war, and what the Europeans' plan was for us. So that when you see these colonies outside that the United States was attempting to send people to, that was going in that direction, not coming in this direction. They weren't trying to actually now take those colonized people, those colonizers, and bring them back here and call them something different. They don't even understand the context of Sierra Leone, the context of Liberia. And so this, and when you look at the way that they utilize it, Rob Bourne, it's clear that they're intentionally misleading. Dane Calloway stuff is really sophisticatedly inappropriate.
No.
And so it makes me wonder, well, what first of all, if he is really a brother, then what's his aim? And if he's not the brother that we think he is, then who is it that's behind him that's putting him forward to do this? And let's recognize really clearly that there are groups of people. When we look at the Russians and how they infiltrated the 2016 election, one of the things that people don't hear is that their major aim was to suppress the voting of people of color. They actually created institutions, created accounts, created active groups within certain states to prevent us from voting. Don't think the Russians and others aren't trying to manipulate you, family.
All right. Let's move on over.
So
What time you gotta go, Jabari?
I'll leave now, pretty much.
All right,
So let
so-
him finish. Let him finish.
So, I mean, to wrap it up, it's basically what you said. None of the people of the tribes that these people claim, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Yamanese, or the favorite one is the Gullah, the Gullah Geechee. So you have the Queen of Gullah Geechee who has a book, and her book is called The African Seeds. And she doesn't deny her African heritage. None of these people deny their African blood. So it makes no sense to me. What is you to gain by this? So I'm going to go out far to say this. These people are cyber agents. The Aboriginal says their religion talks about fuck Africa. We not African. Where do you ever see them speak about any Native American culture? Where's the cosmology stories? What were you doing before the white man came? You don't talk about that. So now that lets me to believe that you're a cyber agent. But anyway, I want to show something. Because
We're saying the same thing. Yeah, that we don't know who they are, but they ain't who they say they
y'all
are.
heard me talk about earlier the Black Conquistadors. This is called the Lenzio. I don't know how to say the other word, right? So this is a map.
Do you have to move it?
Nah, you can see it. I'm gonna move it again. So you see this map right here? This
Is
map.
there a way? I want you to send me all of that. That way I can throw it up as you're talking.
Good.
So just talk, and I'm gonna be throwing it up.
So this right here was created in the 1500s. And let's look at exactly what this map is. This map is in this university in South America, and it describes the conquest of Guatemala. And guess who is drew by? Not the Europeans. They have a tool on this website that blows up, but I will have to download the tool, but I'm not going to do it to his computer. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the pictures. You're going to see
Sorry,
something.
we need to get that, man.
You're going to look at these pictures. See, it says, who painted the Lorenzo? Painted by a group of Mesoamerican Indians from the region of Tlaxcala, spoke naturally the language of the Mexican Aztecs. The highly skilled artists who painted the Lorenzos were called Telekaki and Nalahuti. See this? This is written and this is drew specifically by those people. Now we're going to have something very interesting. So this is the 1500s, and this is drawn by these people. If Jabari had that tool there, I would be able to go
Get
to
that
it.
mic, get that mic phone, because I can't really hear you.
If Jabari had the tool on here, I could do it, but I could just
You can
go
save
right
the
here.
picture. You can save the
So
picture.
see this picture here? See that picture?
Save the picture. You could save it, download the picture, and then blow it up.
Yeah,
Well, he's going to show it on the thing anyway.
Yeah, when you send it. When you gonna send me that?
I could do it right now, actually, because I have it on my
All right.
thing.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep talking now, and I'll.
So in this picture, you're gonna see the Native Americans drawing. Oh, there we go. Yeah, let's blow that bad boy up. On this map,
Hold the mic though.
on this map, the indigenous people separate themselves, and on that Pacific website that you saw, you will see an African right there. This African that's standing there came with the conquistadors, the conquerors. Look at the people in the background. These are the people, the native people, and they describe the conquerors. And this is a map that deals with the conquest of Guatemala drawn by themselves. Case closed.
In other words, wait, drive it home. In other words, you can see that they're distinguishing themselves from the African. You see two different groups of people there.
And to learn more about this, you can go to MBK where we did a whole different thing. It's called what was that called? Oh, just talking to the Aboriginals, and the other one was Africans of New York, where this whole thing is broken down and what we was talking about, Alumari, and you can see it there. So, but yeah, take a good look at this picture again. It's not drawn by Europeans.
Email it to him. Email it to him. Email it to him.
Do it right
It's
now.
going to be even stronger.
Do that. Send that out tomorrow.
He's going to send it to you right now.
You can do it now, right?
I can, but he probably has more than this picture.
I don't know. He just got that one in
You're
there.
going to send the other pictures, right?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now since I'm here talking to you.
Hey,
Yeah, rhyme so dope, my eyes low. When you move like God, the time slow. I came back for the blacks and John Doe's. Crack open them land patents, let go in them townhomes. What's a native to a native? Eat $5 dough if he not melanated. Pale faces got you waiting on a savior. Sending prayers up, he texting back on vacation. Yeah. God's children, give all your praise to Jesus, but how God feeling? He say put no one before him in divine image. And shoot with God of Christians. I got a vision, but niggas ain't gotta listen, so they don't. We came from the soil, wasn't fucking with no boats. Bible took our spirit, English plotted on our homes. Tribal families turn on us, don't act like y'all don't know. But fuck them and they grudges. We was something turned to nothing. And now we nothing's turned to something. Reincarnation of ancients, fresh up out the oven. This the message to the black man. 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 Shooters on my roof, lawyers in the coop. We can never die, bitch, we bulletproof. This the message to the black man. This the message to the black man. Say you wasn't slaves, you was prisoners of war. You stop wasting your time, these other bitches ain't important. You ain't meditating, you ain't mating with the sauce. Like what the fuck's a noodle if you ain't painted with the sauce? I find it hard to trust the pastor who rather side with the master, who preaching we should submit while getting murdered and captured. About how we should wait on God is never our vernacular. They get paid and praised by the dollar long as they keeping us stagnant. Yeah. And niggas think they woke, huh? Like you could change a whole world through a vote, huh? Like slave masters willing to let their slave go, huh? That slave master was probably your kinfolk, huh? History in reverse, a black king strategy. When blacks were your majesty, they always hide your pyramids but point to where the castles be. Aristocracies with your last name patented accurately. Yeah. And I ain't even tell half the shit. Like, I ain't even tell a quarter of the shit. I'm just getting started. Y'all niggas rap about busting guns and all this weird shit. I'm trying to get my people back, nigga.